Hi, and welcome back to Comic Core. So it is Sunday night, and I have brought one of the bestest people in the community on tonight, Annie Banks. Welcome back to the Core.
I'm happy to be back.
And, you know, we got Mark.
Hi, guys.
He's just there.
Yeah, he's here. He's eating. It's all good. He's
What is
filling his-
What is it, Mark? Eating over?
So, tonight we are talking about one of the best, worst, most fantastical straight-to-video horror film franchises out there. We're talking about Leprechaun.
It's so good.
Okay, all right. So
Where do we want to start? Where do we want to start?
All right. First off, going into this, before we actually did this whole like marathon moment, what did you think when we're like, hey, let's do Leprechaun? What were your thoughts?
Know what? When you first pitched it to me, I was really excited because I remember when I was very young, someone was like, you should watch Leprechaun. You know, back when like these really, really cheesy horror movies kept you up all night. You were worried about them. You were like, oh my God, this is horrifying. I remember watching it and being like maybe 9 or 10 years old and being so freaked out and so scared. You know, and I was like, I'm never going to watch these again. And they're like, let's watch them. I was like, absolutely. 10 years down the road, let's do it. Why not? You know, and I realized how silly my thinking was back then, because I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've seen all week. This is fantastic. You know, and it's such a, because it is straight to VOD. Like there was no marketing around, not like little to no marketing about it. It was really just swept under the rug, under the radar. I think that's what adds to its greatness, because you gotta know what you're looking for in order to come across the Leprechaun series.
I think the Leprechaun series for me was always, like you said, as a kid, like for me going to the video store, I know the video store isn't necessarily like a thing anymore, but seeing them on the shelves constantly and this guy in the little green suit, everyone knows my mom was not a fan of horror at all, did not allow violence or anything scary in our household. And it was I would always beg her to watch something, and I'd see the Leprechaun ones like, oh, it's a happy guy, I can watch this, and she'd look at the back cover and she'd be like, nice try, kid, and put it back on the shelf. But it was one that I was very happy to see as a teenager. And you know, sneak around at my friends' houses and marathon all of these. And now as a grown adult, I can openly watch them, and she can just, you know, have her little side comments.
Quick question. Did you guys rewind the tapes before you returned them? I'm serious. I mean,
be kind, rewind.
Yeah, be kind, rewind. Because I was a jerk and I never did.
You would just go through them and then you would give them back to Blockbuster or whatever?
Yeah, and then I would go. Yeah? I would always get like $1 or $2 fee because I forgot to rewind them.
Yeah, they started doing that where they would charge you the fee if you didn't rewind them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your mom must have hated you.
I know someone who still has their Blockbuster card. He carries it with him, and instead of giving ID at bars, he'll pull out his Blockbuster card, and they'll know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. He'll have it with him. He'll have it for bragging rights.
There's a Blockbuster, like an actual verified Twitter account, and it's just them like trolling the entire time. And one of the things that they tweeted out was, "Hey, just checking in," and it was just people like messaging them, and I just messaged them. I was like, "Hey, I'm not paying those late fees."
See, I remember I used to have a Blockbuster near my old home. I just moved out of my hometown recently. And I remember going in there like as a very, very, it was wedged in between the Sears like warehouse store, not the department store, but like the machinery. I think it was like a Sears washing machine outlet. Yeah, Sears outlet.
Like appliances and all that.
Yeah, it was a Chuck E. Cheese, a Blockbuster, and a Sears outlet. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most depressing strip mall on the based in North America, you know?
You drop greasy pizza all over yourself, and then you go buy a washing machine to get greasy pizza all off your shirts.
And while you're there, you go to Blockbuster, you watch something for an hour and a half, you come back and stuff.
Yeah.
I almost worked at Chuck E. Cheese. I almost worked at said Chuck E. Cheese, and my current coworker now was Chucky at a Chuck E. Cheese.
Wow.
He was the rat. He was the pizza rat.
Did they like make him dance and everything?
What?
Totally off subject here, but did they make him like dance and everything?
Yes. I knew how he was studying acting, but I didn't know if he was that intense about it. And he's like, "You want to watch my Chuck E. Cheese routine?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." So we're in the back kitchen drinking a beer, and he's doing this little Chuck E. Cheese routine.
Did he do it with the hat on, like the head?
I wish. This was now. This was like after his post Chucky days, his post Chucky drama. Like he pulled out like a coin purse, and it was like the Chuck E. Cheese coin purse, and he's like, "I keep my change in here," and I was like, "All right, dude," you know. I was like, "Oh, are we oversharing?"
Anyway.
All right.
Anyways, enough about the casino for kids. Go on about leprechauns.
Back to leprechauns.
Back to the leprechaun.
Back to the leprechaun. Back to the hood with the leprechaun. All right. So leprechaun. What do you think? Do you think we should just go through each individual film and talk about it?
I can take it chronologically and follow that progression.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So Leprechaun 1. We have the introduction. We have the introduction to Jennifer Aniston to film, even though she kind of tries to deny it. She's playing like the bitchy Tori Redding character. And
so it's a Rachel from Friends, but in a horror sense. That's what I looked at her and I looked at her at this Tori and I'm like, wait. Oh, like she has this thing with her hair. I'm like, this is just Rachel. I don't even like Friends.
But like really, really dark.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I watch it. I watch it, and it's like, dude, Jennifer Aniston must have sold her soul to this leprechaun because she really hasn't aged.
No, she looks the exact same.
She looks great.
Even Warwick, like you can tell that it's Warwick Davis beneath all the makeup too.
And honestly, like Warwick Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know we're gonna be talking a lot about Warwick Davis, but Warwick Davis is fantastic in this first film, especially all the little like crazy stunt things that they do.
Yeah. Does he do his own stuff?
Right. I think he does most of them in this film.
Okay,
for sure. I know they did like some animatronic stuff with like the later stuff, like not wanting to like throw him and everything.
Right. Yeah, he can only take so much.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with like Peter Dinklage doing most of his own stunts, but again, just because of his ability to only do so much.
Yeah, and they don't want to like risk injury or anything.
He's so. There's something about him to like in this role, especially.
He's fantastic. Honestly, he's
so well done.
He's just a little box of gold, and I love him. I'm not kidding.
He's so unhinged.
I just want to like put him in my pocket and carry him everywhere because he's fantastic. He is.
I want a little pocket Warwick Davis just to carry around with me.
I love Warwick Davis so much.
Oh my God.
I do.
Was he in Harry Potter? He was the
Yeah, he was.
He was the teller, the bank teller.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like Gringotts?
Yeah. He was Grip Hook in Gringotts.
Okay, I did not know that. That's awesome though.
That's where I recognize him from because I'm like, that's Warwick Davis. I remember him from Harry Potter.
Well, I know him as the leprechaun.
Yeah. Two of those TV roles.
And from he's also like Star Wars and
oh my God, he was. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And he was also in Willow. I know Willow from the memes and everything, and them like showing the difference between the Hobbit, and everything. Which, by the way, apparently they're rebooting Willow or like doing a sequel for it.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, I saw that. I was watching the investor event, the Disney investor event, and keeping an eye on everything that they were releasing. And I was like, half of this stuff we don't need, but the other half, hell yeah, I'll take it.
I'll take boat Loki 100%.
I will take that Loki. You know what? I looked at Loki in his little vote for Loki pin, out presidential debate outfit, and I'm like, this kind of looks like the costuming for the Leprechaun. It's the waistcoat and the overcoat. And I'm like, wow, this looks really Irish.
So, do you know Leprechaun almost had a Leprechaun in the White House movie?
No, stop.
Yes, they were supposed. Okay, so before they went to the hood, it was supposed to be him getting dropped off by an alien spacecraft over the White House, and he was gonna
Joe
be
Biden's plan to bring
in.
He
was gonna be in the White House.
What will Joe Biden do to keep the Leprechaun in the White House? What is his
He's gonna be in the White House. Hey,
what is his policy?
Our Treasury Department is gonna love him because he's gonna keep all the gold here.
Right during a national corn shortage, we need him. We need him now. Warwick Davis, please, if you're out there.
Be our president. We need you. The national debt's going up.
Can you please just show up to the Treasury?
Oh gosh, I would vote for Warwick Davis, to be in the Treasury Department. Just stick him in the leprechaun suit. It's fine. It's fine.
He can only have the position if he shows up as the leprechaun.
He's only allowed to speak in limericks.
That's just gonna be Paul Dano in the new Batman.
I need a shot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So back to the first movie.
Okay, so he almost went to the White House and then he didn't. But the first movie, we got Jennifer Aniston, who never ages.
Oh god.
Like a really dark, twisted Jennifer Aniston.
Like, okay, so the majority of these characters, it's like the most in your face, like these aren't necessarily the most likable versions of themselves at the beginning.
Oh, no.
And it's just like, hey, Jennifer Aniston, the city girl, she doesn't want to be here. Her dad's like, hey, come spend the thing with, the summer vacation or break or whatever with me. And, she doesn't like this. She doesn't like the house. And then there's supposed to be like the hunky handyman who's like, whatever.
It's yeah, he's just kind of there. And it's like Mark Jones, who directed this thing, sat there with a checklist. And he's like, okay, what every horror movie trope have I got?
Yep.
And he went down and he checked off the boxes, which is fun because, familiar but surprising is a really great way to write and direct and, put out any piece of media because if you do something totally wild card, which you kind of are already, you're taking this wild card kind of really universally known, if not, known by a large population of global demographics. And you're like, hey, what happens if he wants to be, unreasonably homicidal? Then what?
Well, okay, so we in America, we look, and a lot of the rest of the world, we think of leprechauns, we think like luck, we think of this.
Yeah, but it's a symbol of fortune. Yeah.
With the Irish, they think of them as being tricksters.
Right.
And it's just like
they're always up to no good, and it's a different thing. I think what would happen if this was the leprechaun popular in Ireland?
I would imagine not.
The one if you were Irish and someone was like, "Do you want to watch Leprechaun?" Would you?
I think I'd be disappointed. watching Leprechaun, if I was Irish, just the simple fact that there's only one real Leprechaun movie that's actually supposed to take place in Ireland, and it's shot in Canada. And the Americans in it are actually played by Canadian actors, and all the Irish people in it are still Canadian actors. There's not a single Irish person in it, and they screwed up. They screwed up the myths in it as well.
This is just Irish erasure across the board. This is what they get for their potato famine.
Oh my god, potatoes. Part 3 where he's eating all the potatoes. He's got all the spuds everywhere.
It's Ireland out of context.
Oh my god, I think this would be really offensive if I was Irish. This whole series. Okay. But I
think it's, it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of as a level of satire as like Sacha Baron Cohen does in Borat, where they go and they take these ideas and they blow it up to an extreme. Except it's just Leprechaun, where they're kind of upplaying these stereotypes, but it's in a comedic horror sense.
Hi, Midnighter.
Midnighter wants to make an appearance.
What did they have to say? Would they like to be political with us?
Yeah.
That silence is powerful.
Okay. One of the things I really wanted to point out. So the handyman crew or whatever we have with Jennifer Aniston's love interest, we have Ozzy, we've got the little kid, and they're fixing up their house, right? Did you see the god-awful paint job that they did to this house?
They weren't even paint. They were just out here like this.
They're just slapping colors everywhere. And it's like you look at her character and you're like, oh, she's a little fashionable, cute little city girl. And it's like, do you really think she'd want to live in a house with all of these various colors just slapped everywhere? I saw blue, yellow, and red, and these are Crayola colors. These are not.
No. They probably were like, all right, we're gonna do a paint scene and just have at it, guys. And they did
everything on there. Just slap everything. Oh my gosh. So there's so many moments in this that are just so crazy. Leprechaun sitting on the actual wheelchair and chasing after Jennifer Aniston. The fight scenes where Leprechaun is besting people who could very easily just lift him.
It's amazing because he's just out here, and of course he's doing his best, right? Like, he's really determined, but it's like nobody realizes that this Leprechaun is so, you could just pick him up by the back of his neck and swing him around and call it a day. They're just letting him win. It's almost embarrassing to a fault.
And there's so many challenges with shooting some of these scenes where you see like the height difference. And it's just like, dude, you could outrun him very easily.
And they didn't shoot very flattering. It's not a very flattering movie, cinematically. The way that they chose to direct it and the angles and the shots that they set up, and some you're just dead on, and then others you're like, why are we shooting from this angle, And there's no consistency with that. And I think even like if they had to choose consistency, they didn't even choose consistency within the fight scenes. They're like, okay, you're going to see that there's a significant height difference here. And that there's going to be a clear winner, but it's always going to be Leprechaun for some reason. Nobody's going to stop him. Nobody's going to push him over. Nobody's going to, which is really interesting. And I get that that's kind of the point. Like, you're going to have this antagonist, this villain win. But the way it's presented, it's so hackneyed.
Yeah.
And it's still like the direction is just, it's fantastic because it's known for not being great. It's just there.
So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting, at least about the first 3 Leprechaun films for me, I think there's some sort of a lesson to be learned, and you do get to see some growth with each of the characters. But the Leprechaun, especially in the first film, it's give me my gold. He's just going after what's his. And then once he thinks he has his gold back, he leaves him alone for a while until he realizes that there's a stolen coin. And he's just trying to get back what was originally his anyway. Oh, however, he gets a little murdery with it. And he just starts killing people right and left.
I mean, what if someone took your gold too? Would you be a little upset? I'd be mad.
Yeah,
I would be upset.
There's certain deaths in here that it's just like, this person had nothing to do with this whatsoever. You just killed him.
He just had a good time for his gold. It kind of reminds you with the Saw series. How everyone needs to be brutally mangled and, mauled. And they're just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just there. But you make a really good point, because even behind the silliness and the crudeness of Leprechaun, there's a message, like it's not like they're just throwing it out to throw it out, which they kind of did. But at the same time, you're reading into it and you're saying, hey, there's a bigger takeaway, and there is character development through the second and third ones, where you kind of get to see the growth if you really want to stick with it. And you kind of get to, originally with these they're not very likable characters in the first movie.
Yeah.
And even like halfway through the second one for me, and I was like, I don't know if I like these people yet. I don't know if I could care about these characters just yet. I really need to be, convinced. I need to be persuaded as of why, this isn't just another, Halloween Michael Myers chase, and it did, halfway through the second one, I'm like, all right, cool. I can invest in this. This is something that I can really get behind, and I need to pull through with this trilogy.
Well, do you want to move on to Leprechaun 2, or do we have any final thoughts for Leprechaun 1?
I can go on to the second one if you are ready.
Right. Leprechaun 2, aka the reason why I always say bless you to random strangers when I hear them sneeze twice. This is a rule that I've brought into my life. If I hear a random stranger sneeze twice, I always bless them, and then I tell them, you're welcome. You're not married to a leprechaun now.
If I hear a random stranger sneeze twice, I'm running.
Well, that's now. That's 2020 life. Okay. Previous to that.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, we have even more of a reason. It could be either. You could sneeze twice and it could be leprechaun, and you could sneeze twice and you could be, affected by the pandemic. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's really a guessing game. It really is. And that's why this year has been one big mess.
Oh, yeah.
We can say dumpster fire. It's okay.
Dumpster fire. We'll stick with dumpster fire.
It is.
That's why we're getting an ornament. This is our first pandemic.
Now look at baby's first pandemic.
Yep.
No, Charlie Heath was in Leprechaun 2, and he was one of the frontmen for the films. I'm looking at his IMDb. It's funny to me because he's credited for only 3 things: Leprechaun, the Beverly Hillbillies, and then V-Twin TV, which I'm not sure what it is. Okay. But Dave Charlie, he's got 3 acting credits out there. And I'm like, I recognize that name. I remember him from the movie.
Was he the boyfriend in it?
He was the boyfriend in it.
Okay, he was Cody.
Yes.
Okay.
This was Cody, and he's only had 3 acting credits in his entire life.
He's not bad in this. He's not.
No.
You can tell he's given it his all.
If there are any agents out there that follow Comic Core or any casting directors or anyone else out there, give Charlie Heaton, or not Charlie Heaton, but this Charlie Heath fella a call. He needs you.
Give him a job.
Give him a shout.
Maybe
Charlie Heaton.
Do another Leprechaun movie. Get him in on it.
Hey, if you liked his performance as Cody in the Leprechaun and Leprechaun 2, what else can he bring to the table?
Bring him back.
What else can he do next?
All right. So I watched that whole sequence with him and Bridget complaining the entire time that they were doing this whole get rich quick scheme with the haunted tours and everything. She's complaining because he has to work. He has to work instead of going on their date. And I was like, dude, your boyfriend has a job. Your boyfriend's trying to work. There's worse things out there. And the guy that she settles with for the day, like, blew off his shift. Like, oh yeah, that's great responsibility right there, Bridget.
Hey, he didn't take his shift. He wanted to go out with Bridget. And that's what she looks for in a man. Someone that will sacrifice their financial stability to hang out with her.
Bridget.
Wow. What?
She annoyed me in this movie.
I don't know. You know, there's something about her. Like, even from that, like, get-go introduction, I'm like, oh, you're going to be the one I don't like.
Right?
You're going to be the one that's going to irritate me, even though you're the main character.
She kept complaining the entire time, and, like, everything that's happening. It's like, Bridget, you're not the only one that's getting chased around by a leprechaun, sweetie. Everyone's in danger from the leprechaun right now. He just wants to marry you.
That was also, what an interesting plot. You know, like
1,000 years later.
Is there kind of a correlation to the first one? Maybe. I
always look at the Leprechaun films as every single one of them has nothing to do with the other one except for Leprechaun in the Hood and Back to the Hood, and then the original one and Returns. Mm-hmm. I look at them as being different.
Returns was more recent too. Returns was 2018. Mm-hmm. That's a large jump to make.
I look at each of them being a separate leprechaun, with the exception of those films being like their own little leprechaun or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And there's really not correlation between these little almost filler episodes to be said.
Meanwhile, while Annie is away, we will read the chat for a moment.
We will check in the chat. How is the chat doing? I see a whole bunch of people in here. All right. You better not be after me Lucky Charms, says Chris Barrett. Well, Mark's eating Lucky Charms.
I was.
We got Chaos and Comics. We got to get some leprechaun on leprechaun action. Whoa.
Ayo.
All right. The Great Legend. I want me gold.
Hey, what's up, Ledge? All right. Yeah, I have no privacy in this home. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
I was like, hey, guys, I'm going to be streaming. Heads up. And then they're like, okay. My folks were like, all right. My sister was like, hey, fuck you. And I was like, all right. Good talk. Good talk.
Chris Barrett, they're magically delicious.
Thanks, Comic Man Dandy. Yes, I've been eating well. I got a cat.
All right, so back to what we were saying with Bridget.
I can't stand her.
I don't think anyone can really stand her. I understand, like, we had that little opening bit where we learn about the leprechaun and a man trying to steal his gold, ending up being enslaved by the leprechaun, and the fact that once he takes his bride, then he's going to set this man free. His chosen bride actually is his daughter. So 3 sneezes and he's the leprechaun, and she's the leprechaun's wife now, apparently. So if you're ever with someone that you care about in the very least, and they sneeze twice, maybe bless them so, you know, a leprechaun doesn't come and claim them as their bride.
No, and you know, it's if you don't, you're just wishing someone will intent, like it's ill intent. Mm-hmm. You got to make sure that you do bless them, or, you know, you're going to be their next victim. You're going to be the one that they're after. Oh, well.
Also, why does the leprechaun have to wait 1,000 years? I don't understand that.
How many thousands of years old is he?
He said,
okay, in the Leprechaun 2, it
said
says
he
it's his
was
1000th birthday.
it was his 1000th birthday, and then he was going to wait another 1,000 years. And the rule was on his 1000th birthday, he could take his bride.
Mhm.
So you can only get married on your 1000th birthday. So is the leprechaun in space? Is he
Yes.
4,000 years old? Because it's the fourth
Well,
movie.
if he's yeah. So is every movie between? Is that maybe why they don't line up? Maybe is it because it's a 1,000-year gap in between each?
It could be.
Could it just be instead of being a continuum of sequels or threequels or whatever? Because there's so many of them. Is it just a pattern of 1,000 years where he's after his next victim?
Something to think about. But
Food for thought.
one of the things I do really appreciate in this film is the relationship between Cody and his uncle Morty.
Mhm.
So them and their greedy, like, get rich quick schemes, like, in everything that they do. Honestly, like, Morty being, the drunken trickster that he is. The scene where they're at the bar and Morty almost redeeming himself for his nephew and trying to keep the leprechaun busy and everything. He almost proves that he's a good guy in this film.
And that's one of those pieces of character development, like we kind of see how you're bringing, where there's those almost halfway moments where you are given a reason why you should like these characters. But at the same time, it's not exactly solidified.
And then when they finally get the leprechaun, he goes for the gold because he's greedy. And
it's like they learned nothing, it's one big regressive move. Which I think is why, that kind of sets them back in this series when there's these lessons to be learned by these, Morty and his, he really wants to come around, and you kind of know that in that scene. There's moments of rare, really well done performances in these little hidden gems of scenes, and that's one of them where he's, grappling with himself and he really wants to do something for Cody and not himself for a change. But then he just gives. He gives in and he just throws in the towel in his own redemption.
So this is also where we learn that leprechauns, their weakness is iron.
Mm-hmm.
And we also learned that apparently if you capture one, you get wishes now. I'd never heard of a leprechaun giving wishes before.
I know that's like the genie thing. That's always been like, like the genie in Aladdin.
You get 3 wishes from a leprechaun now. I knew about the pot of gold. They have to show you where their pot
that
of
was
gold
always
is.
the thing. Even Mark's box of Lucky Charms, you got them at the back of the rainbow and the pot of gold.
Yeah.
Question. When did all of the animated Aladdin sequels come out? Because was that a big thing around the time that they were working on the second one, and maybe they wanted to kind of loop in the whole
so the second Leprechaun was 94.
Yeah.
The first Aladdin was 92. Aladdin and the King of Things was 96. And then there was, what is this one? Oh no. And then there was a short series of Aladdin that was in 94 as well.
Okay.
So it seems to be around the same time period where Disney was kind of high, really, really making a name for themselves in their new sweeping Renaissance era, where they were bringing in these classics that would transfer over from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s and be reinvented down the line. Whereas, you're still seeing the Leprechaun movies, Leprechaun Returns is 2018, and these go later into the early 2000s as well. So maybe there's some sort of influence from that. Maybe they just needed something else to keep that momentum for their movies going.
I feel like they just started throwing more and more little bits of lore with each film that comes out. And I feel like the 3 wishes thing was one that never quite made sense to me.
I can get the pot of gold. I can get the 3 sneezes. I could do that. Maybe it goes hand in hand. 3 wishes, 3 sneezes. I don't know. I'm not a leprechaun expert. I'm not the resident.
We need a leprechaun expert. Does anyone know?
Hello. If anyone sees this and you're a leprechaun expert, please let us know. If we are getting our lore correct.
Message us on Instagram or something. We'll bring you on here. We'll talk about the leprechaun lore and how factual it truly is.
We'll see if the mythology lines up.
Oh God, the leprechaun mythology is so bad in the later ones.
Oh my God,
it's so bad. Trust me, it gets so much worse. So
it just goes off the rails.
I will tell you that Cody in this second film, in my mind, completely redeems himself.
In which way?
The fact that he's willing to throw that final piece of leprechaun gold away in order to take his horrible girlfriend to safety with him. I mean,
he should have kept the gold. He should have kept the gold. She was too busy complaining about everything else.
I probably would have kept her there with the leprechaun. Like, you can have her.
I'm sure the leprechaun would have gotten tired of her too. I think he would have just been over it.
Oh God.
His 1,000 years of waiting for something like that? Yeah, no way, buddy.
Leprechaun pouring her a shot to get her in the mood.
How many shots do you think Bridget would have to take?
I think she would need that entire bottle, at least.
She kind of looks like a lightweight, though. Like, lightweight to lightweight.
Oh, God.
I guess I would give her like 2 shots. Be done.
2 shots? Mark, how many shots would it take you?
To be finished?
No. For you to actually, like, completely booze goggles go after the leprechaun.
You'd have to drown me.
For you to muddle through that.
You'd have to drown me in bottles.
I've got a pretty strong stomach, so it would take a bit.
I respect that. I do.
I'd never go after leprechaun. Why are you even asking me this?
I'm just saying.
Why would I go after a little man in high heels and knee-high socks? I mean, come on.
Oh my God. Some of the scenes where you hear the leprechaun coming, where it clicks, and he's clicking, and you hear the heels, that's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, buddy. I just want a compilation where every scene where you can hear him like clicking along.
Oh gosh, Comics Explained, really? No. No, we're not putting that on the screen.
Comics Explained, is that from a personal perspective, or is that paying one of us?
I think it's me.
Drew says he's your type.
Thanks, guys. Total confidence.
What? You're gonna tell me that the heels don't just get you going?
No.
You're not gonna hear the little click of the heels on the tile and be like, oh boy.
Really? The CFMs? Really? Oh gosh, you're cut off.
No. Oh gosh. All right. Now we're going to move on into Leprechaun 3. AKA Leprechaun in Vegas.
Oh my God. These just get better and better. They're just so out there. Like, Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Unless there's a leprechaun in
no continue. Like, the only continuum in this series is that it's just murder. Like, the
sorry, I had to. Comics Misexplained. Click them heels.
This is not the Wizard of Oz, guys.
Oh God.
Anyway, Vegas.
All right.
I like how Mark Jones wrote and directed the first one, and then he like passed along the torch to different directors for the other ones because they just made no sense. You go out in Vegas, you have the green blood going on. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
How do you turn people into leprechauns now? That's one thing that still makes zero sense to me. Out of the entire Leprechaun franchise, that is still something that makes zero sense to me.
Turning people into
a leprechaun.
It would seem that sounds like more of like a race thing than it does like a transformation thing. Like, if you're bit by a vampire or a zombie or a werewolf, like where you turn into these creatures.
Because like even in the second one, the leprechaun is talking about changing Bridget's face and different changes he was going to have to do to her. Like he was going to do like plastic surgery on her almost. But then
maybe that's how they do it.
He gets infected and he just starts growing hair and changing and developing all these weird things.
But actually, wasn't he holding onto the coin the entire time too?
Is the coin the one that powers
he lost the coin, remember?
Then
it gets stolen from him. Yeah. So in this one, it's a little bit different. So in this one, instead of the coins just being like wealth and gold and whatever, and the leprechaun himself giving you the wishes, in this one, the coins are giving you the wishes.
It twists those wishes too. The coin messes with the wishes.
I definitely think that the leprechaun's like really skewing them too, because he makes some body horror out of this one. Like, this one gets gnarly in this one.
This makes the other two look a little bit more mild compared to like what they wanted to do with how the leprechaun approached these wishes and how it's like the monkey's paw when the finger curls. Exactly. And something happens and it just spins your wish on its head.
Like, the horror of these wishes.
Like this is compared to the first two, this is a genuine horror.
Yes.
Like I was very uncomfortable watching it because like I can do gore, I can do all that good stuff, but just watching how well that the agony and the pain was perceived and how it was portrayed through screen. I'm like, oh my God, I can feel this in myself, I mean, I guess it's a great performance on their end. These one credit wonders.
Hey. The woman that plays Loretta in this is also from Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame. She's in parts 2 and 3.
Double header. Gotcha.
She plays Slim in that. And I know Legend's in here, and he knows all about Slim because the Saw.
Come on, Ledge, speak up.
But her wish that messed with me.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like she wanted to save up for plastic surgery. She wanted to be this beautiful woman again.
Yeah, she wanted to just change herself completely and, use that for vanity.
And it's crazy because he gives her duck lips. And then he just makes everything just enormous on her until she explodes. And it's like, yeah, that happened. Just chunks of Loretta flying out of the sky.
It's just kind of something that you sit there and you're like, I don't know how to react, but I'm going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
Like I looked at I just kind of stared at my screen and I waited for myself to process, and I was like, oh, there goes Loretta. She just had her plastic surgery and then she blew up. I guess she kind of got what she wanted. Maybe.
I think the one thing that kind of let me down with this film was we got to see so many characters in their wishes, but the actual female lead in this who wanted to be a magician, who actually seemed like probably the nicest person in this entire film, and we never got to see her wish. She never wished for anything. She was still held to the same standard. She's still getting chased around by the leprechaun. And it's like she's innocent literally throughout this entire time. She's just trying to help this kid who just tried to gamble away his entire tuition check, which, by the way, whose parents just write them like a blank check to go to school? Like, here is your check, son. Let's go drive through Vegas.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing about the entire movie that didn't make sense to me. I'm like, everything else, that checks out. But
Pretty
a
sure
blank check
I'm
to
pretty
fill
sure they
in for
could
your
just
tuition?
mail it.
Hello?
It's a lot of money.
I do think that this female protagonist that we see compared to Bridget and Jennifer Aniston before her, I think she's the most likable out of the whole series. I think that they what they did right with the third one is, you know, they dug more into the horror aspect of it and the more discomfort and the more, you know, because it's not psychological thriller, but you're like put in these horrific situations. That where you're watching people, you know, just die, and not by murder, but like at their own demise. And then you have this innocent female lead, this female protagonist that really does kind of deserve to have her wish granted.
And doesn't get it ever.
She doesn't get it.
And I felt so bad for her. I think the one scene in this that really makes me feel uncomfortable is when she's an object of one of the wishes with her sleazy casino owner, and the wish stops,
was
and
hard
she
to watch.
comes to, and this poor girl who, for all rights, truly is horrified, and that'd be horrifying for anyone to go through.
No.
But for her to just completely come to, and she's half dressed and she's in her boss's office and she doesn't understand what's going on or how she even got there. And the way that actress portrayed that, I think was probably the best scene in the entire film. Just,
it's a very harrowing moment. It's a very serious moment and not very serious series. I think it definitely does kind of step away from Leprechaun, you know, the ridiculousness of the first two, and, you know, what we can laugh about and make fun about and poke fun at. But you kind of step back and you go, wow, this is a real thing.
yeah.
This is, nobody's poking, there's no punchline, there's no gag.
It's sad,
like,
and it's
a
upsetting.
legitimate issue. And it's probably, you know, it's gone unaddressed and will continue to go unaddressed, and it's really sad to see. It's really you know, just a very human moment in human series. And I do commend, and I do really applaud the way that this was taken care of. You don't really see assault or rape or objectification taken as harshly in cinema as it is supposed to be, where everything is over sexualized or, you know, under dramatized, and it's not as uncomfortable, or you're not looking away, and it's not appealing, and it's very raw. I think that for the series to understand the severity of their subject material in that one scene just really shines out of everything that they've done. And it, you know,
Mark was gonna say something. He's like, nope.
Go on, Mark. What would you like to say? No, go ahead.
You can say it.
Okay, the telemarketing TV ads that were going on behind that were hilarious.
Oh yeah. Oh no, yeah. I won't deny that.
Okay.
Him being like a cheesy attorney and a psychic and all that. Dude, Warwick Davis wearing costumes on top of his leprechaun costume needs to be a thing.
But yeah, I totally agree. Those scenes leading up to all that made me uncomfortable as well.
Even the scene immediately after where she runs into like her love interest or like the other like the male lead in this.
The other man, yeah.
And her saying like this isn't the first time that something like this has happened to her. and you know she needs to expect something that's like, no, sweetheart, you really don't need to. And the fact that he's going to step up and be like, no, we need to stop this so this doesn't happen to someone else.
Mm.
But honestly, Leprechaun 3, I enjoy it. We've got an Elvis impersonation from the Leprechaun, which is
How can you be in Vegas
so
and
much
not
fun.
have an Elvis impersonation? Like, that's not even a thing, you know? Like, you're not in Vegas if there's not 15 Elvises on one block. It's like going to LA and having like 15 Lady Gagas down the middle of the street. You know, you expect it, you look for it, you know of it.
So, true story, we almost got married by an Elvis impersonator, and I really wanted to, but my mother-in-law basically told me that wasn't happening.
That would have been so much
So
fun.
we had a more traditional, like elopement style wedding. I basically gave her a week and said, "Here you go. I'm getting married on this date." I was gonna go to Vegas and get married by an Elvis impersonator, but here you go. So, you know, maybe like a vow.
You know what,
something with an
Kat?
Elvis
You can
impersonator.
renew your vows with an Elvis impersonator.
Right? Just make it as cheesy as possible.
Oh yeah, you have to have like, you don't even have to show up in a dress. Show up in like a white tank top. And Mark can get one of those tuxedo T-shirts.
Oh no.
And you can just, you know exactly what I'm talking about too.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta find
I
the
know.
best Elvis that Vegas has to offer.
No, we're gonna find the worst Elvis that Vegas has to offer. We're gonna find someone who's dressed as a leprechaun and have
There
them
we go.
be an Elvis. Be even better.
Okay.
It's what Elvis and Warwick Davis would want for you.
I know. It needs to happen.
You gotta go to Graceland. If you don't go to Vegas, you gotta find an Elvis at Graceland.
Oh God. Yeah, she needs to get up for that one.
Yeah. During that casino scene, I'm surprised we didn't see like the cast of Ocean's 11 running around.
Okay. Unpopular opinion. I don't really like the Ocean series.
Neither do
I don't either.
I think they're kind of lame. I think they're very boring. I think they're very campy. I think they're very cheesy. I didn't like Ocean's 8.
I kind of fell asleep. I feel like they're great nap movies.
They are.
Great nap movies.
Pizza
I feel
delivery.
like I tried to watch it, and I just was like bored. And I like Aquafina. I don't even remember who else was in it. I just was so distracted. I was like, man, I can't pay attention. And I really don't know what's going on. And then I saw George Clooney pop up, and I was like, hey, that's Danny Ocean. And then I went about it, you know, like
knock, knock, knock.
Somebody really wants you.
they sure do.
It's fine. We'll take it.
We're gonna break for the chat for a second so Annie can check her door. Oh my God. All right. All right, let's see here. Comics Misexplained went full Willy Wonka. All right, let's see here. Seawood 19. Feel like Freddie did that once.
Probably.
Hold on. I wonder if Joe Bob can marry people together. I hope he can, because
That'd be amazing.
that would be fantastic. I would love to see the drive-in movie totals of someone's life. That would probably be way better than my actual vows were.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
I didn't get vows.
Hey. We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, you just did.
Which, by the way, did not promise to honor and obey. Not happening.
Thanks. Take another shot.
Let's see here.
Oh, by the way, she is drinking.
Oh, I am. Jameson.
Jameson.
Because, you know, we needed to keep it all here on trend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not having any more of that.
Yeah, I'm drinking out of a Kiss Me, I'm Irish cup, which unfortunately is just a 3-leaf clover. It's not really a 4-leaf clover. So I guess I can't battle any leprechauns with this, unfortunately. Ah, Carson!
Yes.
Frog leg foo! Yes.
By the way, a little fun fact: if you have your frog legs, you put salt on them, they will contract the muscles and start to move. It is the weirdest thing ever.
It is the weirdest thing ever, and you just left it in the kitchen.
Yeah, they were twitching.
And then I had to clean it.
Well, I ate most of it.
It was gross.
And the cats did too.
I know the cats did too. I had to clean it.
Yeah.
It was gross.
It wasn't that gross.
It was gross.
But anyway, I'm going to give you a cat. I'm going to go restock on some food.
All right. So when we get back, we're going to be talking about Leprechaun 4 or Leprechaun in Space. It was released in 1996. And as you can hear Odin prancing around. So Leprechaun in Space. Fucking insane. Best way to put it. Garson. Classic Mark. All right, Chris Barrett. The 4-leaf clover is unlucky in the Irish culture. It symbolizes the devil. Did not know that, actually. Well, 4-leaf clover apparently is one of the few ways you can actually battle a leprechaun. So, we'll see. Hold on. Jason X versus Leprechaun in Space. Who wins? Jason X, hands down, because I'm a Jason fan. But Jason X, I don't feel like is a horrible movie. I really enjoy Jason X. It's a campy, nonsensical film, but it takes that and it runs with it, and it's fun throughout, and it's evenly paced. And all of the characters, you can tell, are just having fun with it. Where, like we're gonna hear here in a second, Leprechaun in Space, it's a lot of really bad CGI graphics and really dated computer graphics, and the lighting's kind of all over the place at moments, and it's a thing. It's a thing. Oh, also we get the Return of the Sleeping Bag Kill. So Jason X, 100%. Jason X is actually one of my favorite Jason films. Sorry, not sorry. But Chris Barrett, the 3-leaf clover represents the Holy Trinity. Okay. Well, that actually kind of makes sense if you think about it. Hey, PMC's in the chat. Jason X. Got some more Jason fans in the chat. So continuing our discussion of Leprechaun while Annie is away, a few other Leprechaun films that never actually saw the light of day. A possible Leprechaun versus Candyman film was a possibility. Basically, they wanted to make it happen because of the success of Freddy versus Jason. They wanted to try to bring back certain characters. Hi.
Hello.
I was just filling in the chat of some other Leprechaun films that were never actually made.
I apologize about that. I had to clarify something for someone.
Okay.
Everything's good. All good.
Awesome. So Leprechaun versus Candyman was almost a thing.
Like the Candyman that they're remaking?
Yeah.
Hey.
Was almost a thing. Another Leprechaun film that almost happened. They wanted to do Leprechaun in the Wild West that involved a time machine. The director
like Doctor Who.
Was very specific. He wanted a time machine to be involved.
You know what though? But it's like it's a horrific Bill and Ted. They take their funky little time machine and they go back and they go to the Wild West, and what's stopping them from going back and remaking that?
It could still happen.
It could still happen, or not even remaking it, but having that happen.
I know the 2 Leprechaun films that Warwick Davis said he wanted to do or to see. He wanted to see a Leprechaun like in Pirates.
Oh, that would have been.
He wanted to see like Leprechaun versus a bunch of pirates, or him like trying to steal pirate gold, or something to do with that, or like Leprechaun as a pirate or something. He thought that would be a lot of fun. And then
that would have been a lot of fun.
He really wanted to see an extension of the Leprechaun family. So he wanted to see, like, where does the leprechaun come from? Does he have a wife who's more evil than he is? Does he have evil kids running around somewhere? You know, like, does he
are
have evil
leprechauns
parents?
inherently evil?
Are they?
Or was there some sort of backstory that twisted his particular character?
They, I know they kind of tried to touch on that a little bit with a really awesome intro for it was either Leprechaun in the Hood or Back to the Hood. You know, like the whole animated sequence.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That was literally the best part of that entire film, was that animated sequence.
Oh yeah, no, they really put like their entire budget in there.
Into that one sequence. But anyway, back to where we were actually supposed to be. Leprechaun in Space. Leprechaun 4. I think I'm going to sum it up for everyone when I say this is fucking insane.
It's wild. It's nuts. There's a space princess there.
I don't know what's going on with this film. So Leprechaun at one point in time is trying to woo and seduce this space princess because he wants to be a space king. And he's wearing a tuxedo, and he's got one of those long cigarette holders. And I just feel like Leprechaun,
for being in the late 90s, it's so, the time period is never consistent. And that's what's great about Leprechaun in 4 in Space, or Leprechaun in Space, is that it's just so out there. And even though the entire Leprechaun series is so bizarre and so slapstick, that you look at this one especially, and you go, hey, there's some Stephen King cokery going on in here.
I feel like for the most part, the first 3 films in their own right are relatively grounded. And I know grounded for the Leprechaun series is saying a lot, but they're relatively grounded. They're relatively like believable at certain points. And then you just go to space.
It's like not Fantastic Four. It's like the Fast and Furious going to space. They just go to space.
It just happens. And you're like,
they run out of they run out of ideas, and they're like, we spent too many plot lines just wasted away with a love interest on Earth. What if we did something more?
Leprechaun in Space.
Leprechaun in Space. And you know what? Good for them. I haven't seen another besides like Alien. Besides Alien, I really haven't seen a good horror space movie.
Jason X.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You're right. Got me there? No, you got me there.
We were talking about that in the chat while you're gone for a little bit.
Wait, what about Gravity?
Oh, Gravity was alright. Gravity wasn't bad.
Do you remember? I would put that as a horror movie. That's kind of scary.
Gravity?
Yeah.
It'd be horrifying if you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Someone said that The Martian was scary because Mark Wahlberg was there.
Nice.
Oh my God. Back to potatoes.
Yes.
Full circle. We brought it back to potatoes.
Mark Wahlberg is the leprechaun. Confirmed. Mark
Wahlberg is a leprechaun.
Mark Wahlberg, confirm or deny, yes or no. Are you a leprechaun?
I think Mark Wahlberg might be a leprechaun.
I think you're on. Marky Mark, that was his leprechaun name.
instead of Lep in the Hood, it's Mark Wahlberg.
It's Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Back to the hood. Oh.
You remember when oh my god. Speaking of space horror, what was that space horror Life with Ryan Reynolds? And they were like, ooh, this is a Venom prequel, and then they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did they do that?
I don't know.
What do they want to achieve? I remember that being they're like, oh my god, this is the groundbreaking. Like this is like Ridley Scott is gonna be shaking. I'm like, about what?
Oh yeah, that's right. Apollo 18.
Oh yeah.
Is Apollo 18 the one where the rocks come alive?
Thank you, Poor Man's Comics. But yeah, it is. It's where I had you thoroughly convinced that you know.
Okay, let me tell the full story. We watched this film. I may have been drinking while we watched this film, and Mark had me thoroughly convinced by the end of it that certain parts of this film were actual footage, and that those rocks were actually a real thing, actually alive, actually running around in the world here on planet Earth. Yes, I had been drinking. Alcohol was involved. Okay. But I was thoroughly convinced and very scared about alien rocks coming alive and attacking people's faces.
Okay, Carson says 2001: A Space Odyssey. Was that a horror? I don't remember being particularly nervous for watching A Space Odyssey.
I don't know.
It was also I don't. Yeah.
See, Chris Barrett's with me on this one.
Apollo 13 was real though. Not Apollo 18.
Apollo 15 really happened. That was a thing.
That's okay. I think we're going back to the moon next year.
Someone is.
No, we are.
Someone is.
No. I don't think it's been confirmed, but anyway.
Oh my god.
So
okay.
Leprechaun in Space.
Leprechaun in Space. All right. So one of the biggest issues I have with this film, the computer graphics, the CGI, how bad all of this is. If they could honestly, like, remember a simpler time. Remember the 1950s and 60s when they wanted to go to space and they just put like a ball on a string and they put it in front of a camera. I think that would have looked better on film than these computer graphics. I would have actually appreciated seeing the string make something bounce up and down, because at least it'd be funny. But this film,
I don't think I'd be as repulsed.
It's so bad. It's so bad, and it's so bad. Okay, I've got notes for this, but in my notes for this, I have creepy Dr. Morris, and I just remember this creepy doctor's assistant checking out the alien princess.
Yeah,
and
it was a very Jabba the Hutt moment.
I sent Legend a clip that I found of this on YouTube just because I wanted to like traumatize him with it. So full disclosure, Legend is terrified of feet. And
really,
this doctor smells her feet in it when he's like checking her out and being all creepy and everything, like kind of like molestery. But he smells her feet in it. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I just sent that clip to Legend, and it like freaked him out to no end. And he didn't talk to me for like 4 days, but it was kind of worth it.
I mean, it is kind of worth it. You get that instant hit of dopamine for upsetting Ledge.
It was kind of worth it though.
It is worth it.
Gosh.
Yeah, but what the heck was that? I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait.
He got creepy real quick. And then the other doctor like catching him and is like looking at him on the computer screen. All this happening. He's like,
He's not doing anything. He's just like, I gotta go, you know, and I'm almost like, oh, okay. I guess.
It's just like on the edge of it being like really, really uncomfortable moment. So another moment in this, it made no sense to me. the leprechaun is now apparently an STD.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
I don't even remember who I'm talking about here. So there's a moment after they blow up the asteroid or whatever that the leprechaun and the princess were at, where they take the wounded princess into their ship, and they believe the leprechaun's dead, right? So one of the Marines in this thinks it's hilarious, apparently, to pee on some of the leprechaun's like body, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Apparently, the leprechaun swims up the stream because later on he comes out.
Don't talk about it. Don't dare talk about
Body horror. We'll put it that way. Body horror. You thought 3 was uncomfortable.
Oh no, this man is a STD.
Wait for 4. Oh God.
You know what though? You don't see that happening in other movies.
You really don't.
One thing about the Leprechaun is that Leprechaun series is that it kind of steps outside of traditional horror trajectory. Leprechaun knows how to make you really, really uncomfortable and sprinkle in these like really traumatic moments, if you will. Like you're still thinking about it. You're still thinking about that. And I don't know what other series you can look at and be like, that was in Leprechaun, you know? Leprechaun 4, where he crawls up his dick. Like, what?
Oh God.
Oh man. What an interesting. It's one of those that you're you really just look for. You wait for those moments.
Oh. Oh, and how Leprechaun and the princess, when they do finally team up. This princess, she turns against her father and decides she's going to marry the leprechaun. They're going to take
he
over.
got his bride. He got his bride that he wanted so badly in the second one.
And she's hotter than Bridget, so
she
step
is.
up. Step up there.
He's an upgrade.
Then I can't even talk about this. I'm gonna say like this. It's crazy. There's so many moments in this film where it's like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why is this happening?
Again, it's also directed by Ryan Chudgard Smith, who returns. I believe he's a returning director to the series.
I think he also did 3.
I think he did. I think he did 3 and 4 back to back.
Which my question is, how do you go from 3, which is relatively still grounded, to
it has a moral to it, though. You know what I mean? You go from 3 where you're like, here's this girl, and here she's being objectified and she wants her wish, but she never gets it, to what if Leprechaun went to space?
What if Leprechaun went to space and tried to bang an alien princess?
What then?
What would happen?
Hypothetically, he gets to space and it's not the 50s planets on strings. It's 10 times worse.
I wish it was the 50s planets.
I would have loved to see that. That would have been
better. The CG.
I would kill to see that. That would just up the rating in the movie by 10. Which Leprechaun has like a 35% rating. It's like an extremely low score. I love it, and that just means it's good.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Also, Warwick Davis still being awesome. He, one of my favorite moments with the Leprechaun is when he gets shot by that ray, and instead of getting shrunk, he is made huge.
Yes,
huge, gigantic creature.
Leprechaun, right?
And the first thing he does is he looks in his pants. And he's like, big is good. Big is good. And it's just like, oh God.
Another brilliant moment in filmmaking.
Yes.
Hey,
Warwick
where else
Davis is a treasure.
Davis is a legend. He's a god.
He's a
The
treasure.
fact that he stuck out every single movie, like a team player and like a champ. I want to know what the size of the check that it was cut.
Probably a bit.
If it kept him around for that long, yeah.
Yeah. Was it 6 films
I think so.
that they got for him?
I think they had him for a large majority of them, yeah.
Yeah, it was 6 films because there's 8 altogether. So, any final things we need to talk about for Leprechaun in Space?
Oh, I'm ready to get to the next ones. I'm ready for the hood.
I think we're all ready for the hood. So, Lep in the Hood, Leprechaun 5.
Leprechaun in the Hood. Just the title alone. I love it. It's the fact that they find the plot of the movie is that it's 3 rappers against a pimp from space. Like you jump from space and then you're like, he's gonna get even with a pimp.
We have Ice-T.
What? Very Ice-T of them. You're correct.
We've got Warwick Davis versus Ice-T. So if you ever wanted to see that, Lep in the Hood.
And it's worth it. It is definitely worth it. Ice-T, for what it's what he's worth. I just think he's funny. I just think he doesn't think. And he's like Tracy Morgan in that way. If they ever had to reboot one of the original Leprechauns, I want it to be in the Hood, and I want it to be Tracy Morgan as Ice-T's character. I want Tracy Morgan to be Mac Daddy.
So one of my favorite moments with Ice-T in this film is him actually fighting the leprechaun when he first meets him, and he keeps pulling things out of his afro. My question is, how did he fit the bat in there?
I wish I knew. I wish I had that
full-size bat.
It's such a
that was magic. That was magic in its own right.
He knows too much, where he has the power to hide a bat within his afro.
It wasn't even that big of an afro or that thick of an afro.
No, it was like a mild afro.
He hid a whole bat in there. And I just want to know how.
I love it. That's just one of those moments where you're like, yeah, this is some quality stuff.
So each one of these films, or most of them, we get something established or added on to the Leprechaun lore, and it's something that like I really like taking note of. In this one, we get the flute. I know. Yes. I forgot to mention the medallion that we had established in the 3rd film that actually plays a part in this 5th film as well, that turns him into a statue. But this flute is pretty interesting because you can control people and turn them into your zombies or whatever. And I know our rappers use it to try to manipulate and grow their music career. I personally like how the leprechaun uses it because he gets his zombie hose.
Yeah,
and it's
he does what
hilarious.
And that's kind of what he's been doing with this the last 4 movies, is where he just he's a very selfish antagonist. There's always something that benefits him, and you see that a lot. But there are other antagonists or anti-heroes out there that have some sort of cause that they're fighting for. Leprechaun just cares about himself. He just wants what's best for him. He wants his bride. He wants his gold. He wants his there's always something that interests him. And he's very merciless in getting that.
So if this leprechaun was in fact the same leprechaun as the other films, he would already have his 2 brides.
Leprechaun's got sister wives going on.
the flute. I'm just saying, like, this flute is making it to where he can have any woman he wants.
Yeah.
He can have anyone he wants.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
dude, why wouldn't you just break out that flute constantly?
Where was his flute in the second movie?
Exactly.
Where he wanted Bridget.
You wouldn't even have to do the whole sneezing thing, dude.
No. It just sounds like a lot of work.
Right? Just play the flute. There you go. Girl's yours.
Like, if you had it, you know? We could have been 2 movies deep and called it quits because you had your flute. You could get whatever you want.
Right?
But
I just want to know,
he-
where was the flute this entire time? Where was the flute?
That's a really good question. It just kind of showed up.
I really did.
The flute was not explained to the extent that other things were explained within different movies. I think they just kind of skipped over it. They're like, oh yeah, he's got this now.
I'm just
You
saying,
know, when they went about it.
if he had the flute this entire time, he would be married to multiple women. He would be the king of an alien planet.
Mm.
And he'd be a very wealthy leprechaun.
Yeah.
It would be a happy ending for him.
I don't know why they kept making more after he got his flute. This could have been it for him. He could have got exactly what he wanted.
That's true.
Leprechaun being a little pimp.
Leprechaun
The greatest thing ever.
Pimp.
I literally wrote down, because he calls them his zombie fly girls. It's an exact quote from him. He calls his zombie fly girls.
That series is just immaculate. Where did this come from? Mark Jones had it again with the brilliant screenwriting.
Hold on 1 second. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I think we're better.
Okay.
Yeah, but zombie fly girls. I thought it was the greatest thing ever, personally.
Fly girls used in slang.
I think we're getting robot.
Am I getting a
I
robot?
don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway,
But all right.
zombie fly girls though.
Zombie fly girls.
Zombie fly girls. All right. So I know one of the bigger parts of this film was the actual band that we follow throughout. They're supposed to be our heroes of the film. I know their leaders, like Master P and everything, and he's spreading the message of positivity is his thing.
Yeah. I was like, this is really forced. This is very hands. This is very forced.
Okay. Oh no. It's not just me. Robot Annie. I thought it was on my end.
I can't hear it.
You sound like a robot.
I sound like a robot.
Okay. Say zombie fly girls. I just want to hear it in a robot voice.
Zombie fly girls. My mic's just working on that. Let me check. Audio.
Stream Moment Spot is attacking. Boss bot 3000. It's because we talked smack about Lep in space.
It's gonna happen. I didn't use time, but I was repeating what I know.
All right. Try this. Try hopping out and then hopping back in and just see if that'll fix it.
All right, let me see if it works.
Wait. Don't do it again. Actually, I think it just corrected itself. Talk normal. Yeah?
I even start screaming. Did it work through?
All right. Yeah, I think it works through it. You sound better.
They're calling you a Decepticon. Yes.
My exterior finally cracked after all this time.
Okay, it's still kind of there, but
It's fine.
It's fine. We'll work through it.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was the band in this, led by Master P. Is it safe to say that they were kind of the most disappointing thing of this entire movie?
For being the kind of the focal point of this movie, I can definitely say that was, and it was more. It sounded like a better idea on paper, and it wasn't very much or very thought out. I think that it was more of an idea than it was an actual action. They were very, for being the somewhat, I don't know, for wanting to be the central pivot of the movie, they weren't really involved in anything.
So I kept hoping, because their whole goal was they wanted to win this contest, they wanted to be famous, they wanted to be great musicians. I kept hoping, like, hey, when they actually start singing, when they actually start performing, they're going to be fantastic. They're going to be laying down the rhymes. It's going to be clicking. It's going to be great. And it was just three guys up there talking.
There was no music behind their musicians.
And I was like, oh God, like, dude, what's going on here? Why?
The idea was there, it just wasn't executed, it wasn't carried out. There was no fulfillment in that idea that was supposed to carry the plot. Which, go ahead.
Keep going.
No, I was going to say, which it feels very half-witted in a way. There's definitely a message there, where these got these three guys chasing fame, and they want to be all that, and they're talking about how great their music is. But you don't hear the music. You don't know what they're talking about. They could be great. There is the afterthought that these guys could have been really talented performers for this movie or in this movie. However, we really won't know that.
I just feel like everything outside of those three was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like a lot of really dynamic things going on throughout. And then you get to these three guys who are supposed to be like your big main characters throughout. And it's like they're kind of lackluster in comparison. I mean, Ice-T is really fun. Warwick Davis, we all know he's a treasure.
Oh, he's just he owns the series, yeah.
There's even a bit with I wrote down the name here, Miss Fontaine. And there's a funny little bit where Miss Fontaine wanted to get down with a leprechaun. So, leprechauns getting lucky right and left. But there were so many different things that were a lot of fun that could have carried this film in their own right. But I just feel like the group in this just kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, no, for wanting to be such a large part of this movie, I didn't think that they were always truly there. They played second fiddle to a lot of background characters and a lot of secondary plot lines. You have Ice-T and his little squad of pimps that are just having a great time. You can tell they're having fun being there. It's fun to watch them go. It's fun to watch them interact with Leprechaun himself. And, you get these really just cheesy fight scenes, these really tacky set up, back-to-back brawls. And then you're like, all right, we got to go back to this band.
Yeah.
Why can't I just stick with this one side story the entire time?
So there's a few other things I really wanted to talk about in this, but the band, when they're trying to research leprechauns, because it seems like in every single one of these films they have to do some sort of research on leprechauns, they bring out the book Leprechauns for Dummies. And it's just like, yes, Leprechauns for Dummies. I Googled it. It does not exist.
That's awesome that they made the book just for this movie. Because that series, blank and such and such, blank and blank for dummies exists. But the fact that there's no Leprechauns for Dummies is a lot of fun. I think that's a super cool little thing that they did, that little additive that adds to not just Leprechaun lore, but the Leprechaun series lore, where it exists outside of this character and adds to more of the cinematic universe that it creates.
So, one last thing before we go on to the next film. Lep in the Hood, Come to Do No Good. Warwick Davis attempting to rap for this film.
Oh,
honestly,
awesome.
Needs to happen in every film he's ever in from moving forward. He always needs to rap or attempt to rap because it was the greatest thing ever.
I think that was one of the best parts of the movies, honestly. Like, out of the 8 movies, Warwick Davis having the opportunity to rap on screen, super cool. Like, good for him. Multifaceted.
Fly girls backing him up.
What a great.
I went into this thinking like I didn't like Leprechaun in the Hood or Back to the Hood, but then I watched it again and I was just like, I kept looking back at my notes and I was like, yeah, I had a lot more fun with this than I thought I did.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's the nice thing about the Leprechaun series is that all 8 of them they may not shine tremendously, but they're a lot of fun. They are really, really cool to just burn through, and I had a good time watching them because they're so mindless and so senseless that you enjoy them as a guilty pleasure.
Like it's like what we were talking about earlier. It's like this is a popcorn flick.
Yes.
This is like
it's a true blue popcorn flick. You watch it because you want to kill an hour or two, hanging out with your friends, by yourself maybe. You got nothing else going on,
There's not a new episode of Mandalorian.
There's no episode of
Leprechaun. Watch
this past week's episode of The Mandalorian.
Yes. Dude. Mando's ride or die.
Mando. Moff Gideon.
Boy.
Scary dude. I like him a lot. I think he's just menacing as hell.
Nah. I'm telling you right now, Mando took off the helmet. So
he took off the helmet.
All bets are gone. Okay, you took his boy. He's coming to get him. Like he
what
said,
he means more to me than you will ever know.
Yep. That's his son right there. You got his little green child.
His little Grogu baby.
His little Grogu, and he's gonna go get him back.
I love this show. I can't wait to see where it goes next. I'm so excited to see where it goes.
I think the most disturbing scene in all this was looking at a little Grogu in little cuffs, on his side, knocked out. That was probably the most disturbing scene in all of it.
I do want to see what they do with the Jedi Temple and how they link that back, because we already saw Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Which, great episode, amazing piece of television. But I kind of like how she came and then she left. Like a chip in the night,
It's just kind of like a, hey, here.
Yeah, I do like that. I really don't care to see Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano anymore, because we got our closure. She talked about Anakin. She talked about the Clone Wars, and then she was like, bye. Good for her. But yeah, no. There's no episode of The Mandalorian, so you gotta watch Leprechaun instead.
Yep, gotta watch Leprechaun. So the next film is Leprechaun Back to the Hood. And it's the with an A and not an
Back to is a numerical value 2.
Back to the Hood. So it was in 2003. So I've already mentioned it, but my favorite part of this entire film is the storybook opening. I feel like they blew their budget in this.
They sure did. And it's really cool to see. It's worth it. It honestly is worth blowing their budget.
But then, guys, you got the movie with all these leprechauns in it in the intro.
I really wish that animated sequence, they just extended that, and that was a Leprechaun movie.
I would like to see an
animated
animated Leprechaun. I think that would have been really neat.
It's fantastic.
Very cool.
But
Um,
okay, right now, Netflix, you greenlight everything. We're gonna pitch you an idea. We want an animated Leprechaun series. It's gonna be adult humor. You know, you got Big Mouth over there. You got a lot of things going on over there. We want an adult Leprechaun series.
I'd watch it. I would definitely watch it. I would like to see an adult Leprechaun series in the style and fashion of Boondocks.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah.
I dig that. I really dig that.
I'd take it.
I think that would work.
All right.
But yeah, no, Leprechaun 6, back to the hood.
To the hood.
We were relapsing back on that chase for gold. Which is kind of cool how that kind of goes hand in hand with the first 5-ish that really hone in on that compared to making wishes or something else like that. It kind of deviates from what the Leprechaun is truly after. Do you like Emily Woodward?
Emily
Do you
Wood.
like our main protagonist?
All right, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like most of the characters in this film, it'd be more interesting to watch paint dry than see them act again.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a few moments that are a lot of fun, but they are very few and far between for me.
And this one specifically? Or
Almost this entire film.
okay. I think that they didn't piggyback off of In the Hood enough.
No.
I would have liked to see the return of Ice-T and his little posse.
And the zombie fly girls
Yes.
needed to come back.
They needed to make him or something.
I honestly was hoping, and I've seen this before, but like in my mindset, I think it would have been better if they would have had the Leprechaun have his own record label.
I would like to see the Leprechaun become a music producer.
Right?
I think that would have worked out well for him.
He kind of ended up
Hot
in
of
the last film
records.
as that.
There you go. Yeah.
But like just continue as a direct sequel off it. But instead they went back to the horror aspect of it. They wanted like kind of like more like a slasher style. But for me, it just kind of it takes too long. We're with these characters that are a bit too lackluster for me. And once again, they're a bit more stereotypical, like what we got with the first film. They're
Right.
not as likable as some of the characters that we've gotten from previous films. And it's just we added extra things to it. We have the never-ending gold chest that if you just open it and close it, keeps refilling with gold. So that's a new thing apparently now.
That's like the flu. It comes out of nowhere.
It just comes out of nowhere. You get gold everywhere.
It just is there, and you're like, all right. Now,
One of the things that really annoyed me in this that I didn't pick up on in any of the other films leading up to this, even the fourth film, was the sound work on this film.
yes.
So all over the place. The sound effects that they felt like they had to include in this just really bothered me.
Yeah, it's Christopher Nolan level sound mixing, where you don't know what you're doing, but you sure as heck want to try.
It really reminds me of like Halloween Part 5 when they have like the cops come in and they want to play like the silly sound effects when they're walking through. Like it's that level bad sound work at times.
Oh yeah, it's, and you know, I don't really, like you said earlier, like a few seconds ago, is that it's not really noticeable, which is something that definitely stands out with C-list horror, B-list, C-list horror, is that, or even in really big titles, you'll hear very poor sound mixing, very poor sound direction, where that audio does not always work with what's on screen. And this one in particular, but I think that because this this piece of Leprechaun filmography was so distinctly lackluster that you could focus on the negatives compared to kind of the really outstanding parts about the movie. It's where you're focusing on like, hey, I'm kind of realizing why this particular franchise did not blow up as well. You know, and it's where you can kind of pinpoint that lull and that drag and that low point. I would definitely mark this as a low point.
Yes.
Because even though it is, for me, it is the one Leprechaun film that links back directly to the one that precedes it, I still couldn't get behind it. It was kind of background noise for me.
Yeah.
Where I would keep it on in a separate tab and go, oh, okay, this is still running, and then, you know, mind my own business. It wasn't as engaging as past Leprechauns, and it was more horror, but it was more slasher than body or psychological.
So something that we've both agreed on is fantastic throughout this entire series has been Warwick Davis. Now, this is Warwick Davis's last film in the series.
Yes.
And I can't help but feel like the fact that this film is so dry for humor and it's so poorly paced, and honestly, like, you can tell it's very poorly written, but I can't help but feel like this is a big reason why he left the franchise, why he left the character. It's probably the big part of it.
I think he jumped ship when he saw the ship going under. I think he knew that he could either stay and drown or he could flee and take care of himself, and he did what was best.
Yep.
I don't understand why this was his last appearance as Leprechaun. I see why he decided to disband after an impressive run. It's like a James Bond level run.
Yeah.
Of appearances. You know, like this is like Marvel contract sized. Where you're signing your soul away. You're Disney.
Marvel
You're Josh
contract,
Gad,
Leprechaun.
you know, or you're
call Warwick Davis.
Yeah, and he's Warwick Davis. You know, like he
Warwick Davis in this.
Warwick Davis. I do think that you make a really good point with this being just a dramatic dip. Like if we were to graph out the rankings and the value held behind these Leprechaun films, I think you definitely see a down spike in the specific graph that would be drawn. You know, just because this one is significantly underwhelming. It's very underwhelming. It's very forgettable. It's very dry.
I honestly only have one thing written down here for a scene that I actually really liked in this.
Yeah, let's hear it.
The only scene I have written down in my notes as a positive for this film, I have Leprechaun talking to Watson's girlfriend on the phone. So right after he kills Watson's character, he answers his cell phone, and it's his girlfriend. And his girlfriend keeps blowing up Watson's phone this entire time, thinking that he's cheating on her. And he answers the phone, and she's yelling at him at first. And next thing you know, they're flirting with each other. And she's asking if he's got a good body, what he looks like, and he's explaining exactly what he looks like and everything. He's like, yeah, I think I got a good body. I take care of myself. Da da da. Yeah, I got red hair. I got this. And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, how tall are you? And he's like, what? I think he says he's 3'6" or 3'3", and she hangs up on him.
No, that's not what made her hang out.
She hangs up on him, and he's still on the phone, and he's just like, hello? And he was so excited about it. It's like, dude, you just left having zombie fly girls in the last film to now you're upset that some like random guy's girlfriend on the phone hung up on you. Now you're upset. Just like, dude, bring back the zombie fly girls. Where is your flute? Get your flute back.
And had her with the flute too. That's the thing.
You need to get that flute back.
Flute.
Never lose your flute.
Lesson of Leprechaun: never lose your flute.
Never lose your flute.
There you go.
All right.
Any closing remarks?
Leprechaun, Back to the Hood. I don't like this movie. Mark?
I fell asleep.
You did fall asleep. You did.
I mean, the intro would have been awesome, and then after that, I think the story with the pastor would have been better than the movie. What led up to that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The whole
there's a lot of great ideas surrounding it. However, the execution was very poor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like it could have been like 1 week earlier, and then shown how that all happened.
Yeah, that is true.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
We're moving on into some dark days. And when I mean dark days, I mean poor lighting and, shaky cam footage. I'm talking about Leprechaun Origins.
2014.
2014 WWE direct-to-video dip into the Leprechaun franchise.
It's a leprechaun.
So before we
this is the first in the Leprechaun franchise that goes back to its Irish roots.
Yep. But does it? Does it really?
But
Irish in Canada.
it's just rough.
This is the first film that takes place that's supposed to be set in Ireland, that's supposed to star Americans and Irish people. And it's supposed to be dealing with actual Irish lore and mythology. However, it does none of this correctly. It's shot in Canada. The Americans and the Irish characters are all Canadian actors.
So it's a Canadian
and
film.
They mixed up their myths. So it was supposed to be based on, I wrote this down, it was supposed to be based on a Tuathanan, but instead they actually put the physical leprechaun embodiment on a Furbolin instead, which is more like a troll monster, or a golem.
It's more grotesque and it's
Yes.
more gargoyle-ish
Yes.
in a way. I think we kind of learned this from Blair Witch. Steady cam is so fucking ugly in horror movies or in any movie. We learned this from The Witch. We learned this from Blair Witch Trials. We learned this from freaking Hardcore Harry. Don't do steady cam. Nobody wants to watch you run around with your flip phone.
Let's not talk some smack about the Blair Witch, because
I like the Blair Witch. I just think that it was one and done. I don't think that there should be examples taken from others. I think that you do it once and you don't try it again.
Wait, what about Project X?
the party movie.
That's stupid, dude.
Yeah. They used a bunch of shaky footage and actually burnt down a house, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. They got to use the steady cam. Remember when Ryan Johnson broke the camera on Knives Out, so they had to switch to the hand camera?
I love Knives Out.
I love
so
Knives
much.
I got to chill with Chris Evans and talk to him about Knives Out. The man is a himbo.
Just insert a photo of Chris Evans with his shirt off. It's fine. It's fine.
I've had coworkers they chatted a little bit with Ryan Johnson before the premiere here in Chicago. That was really cool for them, but yeah, he broke the camera while shooting that. When the family, after the will reading, when they all flee out of the house and it switches from steady or the actual camera to hand camera, that's why it becomes all shaky. But yeah, Leprechaun Origins. What the heck happened? What is going on?
Sorry. Jean wants to be a part of this, apparently. All right. Leprechaun Origins. I'm going to say it right now. I think of this film as being an abomination.
It's Lionsgate.
It's just... They wanted to take a film franchise like Leprechaun, which is known for being this campy cheese fest of a like horror comedy. Everyone knows these films. Everyone loves these films. They hate these films. They know exactly what they're going into with this. And instead they want to make a for real horror film, and they did it kind of more on like a sci-fi movie level, which is kind of hilarious because the next film in this actually is a sci-fi channel movie. But
Yeah. I think go ahead.
It doesn't have the weight that the other films do, and they try so hard to make it so dark. And at certain times I find myself actually having to squint at the screen like, what exactly is going on 100%. And then there's like thermal cams thrown in, and we're not getting this like quippy upbeat leprechaun that's doing all these like silly things. We actually have this monster that's running around that's ripping people's earrings out because it wants gold.
I think there's a moment to understand that, yeah, like this isn't the Leprechaun that we know with Warwick Davis. That's a really sad discontinuum, and it's just really disrespectful to that reputation he created. I think, yeah, like ripping out like, having my ears for smelling eggs, that's very, it kind of reminds me of how Blumhouse approaches all their horror, where it's too over the top for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, does it have to be? Why can't we just go back to, it's super cool that you've got this WWE's superstar running around, but nobody else wanted to see that portrayal. We were kind of looking forward to this goofy, very nonsensical slasher comedy where it was fun to make fun of, and this is just grim and morbid, and
it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the rest of this at all.
Even the star was like, he never watched any other movie. He never watched the other Leprechaun series. Because he had no dialogue and he had very little screen time, which is really weird to think about. That there's really no there's no preparation from the cast. Lionsgate just wanted to bank off of it. It's just not a really great piece of film. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucks a lot.
I feel like they just had an opportunity to buy a property and then just shoehorn in a wrestler.
Yeah.
And say that he's an actor. And I mean, like you said earlier, there really wasn't the preparation. There wasn't a love to this. There's not that love and care that you feel from so many of the other Leprechaun films where you're like, yeah, this is a character that's cherished. Here, hey, we're just going to slap the title on there because it's nothing like the rest of it. And I'm not gonna lie, for this whole like marathon we did before this, that was probably the second time I've actually seen this film. And the first time I saw this film, when we got done actually watching it, I threw the case across the room because I was so mad.
Really?
The movie wasn't in it because it was still in the player, but as soon as it got done, I was just like, the fuck was this? And I just chucked it across the room. I didn't like it. Like I love bad movies. Everyone knows I love bad movies.
Oh yeah,
It's like one of the
bad
greatest
movies are
things ever.
great.
But like
Bad movies are fantastic.
you look for something to enjoy. And like
Yeah,
I feel like you can enjoy a film like this, but don't try to trick me into thinking it's something that it's not. Don't try to trick someone into believing that this has anything to do with the Leprechaun franchise just by slapping a name on it. Like that's
it's so misleading, and it's just a cash grab.
it
There's
really
it
is.
just looks so. And the movie itself is bleak, and it doesn't have a plot, and it's boring,
And
and it's just overall nobody really want. You could tell that none of these actors really wanted to be there. They didn't really know what was going on. It was a push for the WWE, and it was a push for Lionsgate to take a property that they shouldn't be handling and trying to make something out of it that has no connection to a beloved horror saga. And it's really disappointing. It's a big letdown. And yeah, there are some other, you look at Eggers doing Witch or The Lighthouse, or you look at like Hereditary or something like that, where it's very mundane. It's very just there. But it's good because there's a lot of attention and care and a lot of really good stuff that goes into it. With Leprechaun Origins, we don't really see an origin. This is the opportunity to get that origin that Warwick Davis wanted.
I just feel like they had whoever the director and the screenwriter and everything was for this, they had a script put together, they had a film that they wanted to push out there, and then someone said, hey, we just bought the rights to Leprechaun, we need you to make a Leprechaun movie, and they just changed a few things and then just said it was a Leprechaun film. And that's a big reason why that's a big reason why I feel a lot of these like reboots that they're trying and like everything now, a lot of them aren't doing as well. I mean, look at the new Black Christmas, for example.
They did another one? Oh yeah, they did a couple years ago, yeah.
Look at the original Black Christmas. You look even at the, I think it's like 2006 remake that they did of Black Christmas. They're both a very grounded, like very similar film. They're both very well done. And then you look at the one that happened this last year, and I think it was 2019, but it has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
No, it's the title taken and stripped.
It's honestly, somebody had a script. They had their own film put together, and someone got a hold of the rights, and they're like, hey, here you go. And it's a way to trick people that are fans of a certain franchise to going to go see this film or whatever. Where I went to go see Black Christmas with my husband and a couple of my buddies who are really into horror, because we all really enjoy Black Christmas. It's, one of the greatest Christmas horror films of all time. But then you go into seeing that and it's like, dude, this is not what we signed up for necessarily. And it's you tricking an audience into seeing something that they weren't expecting, that maybe they didn't want to see. And I don't want to say outright that this is a horrible film, which I didn't enjoy it myself. I don't really like it at all. But it definitely tried to shoehorn in a few things to not even attempt it, but they're like, hey, this is the origin of the leprechauns, and it has nothing to do with it, really.
It's essentially, they take two words that horror fans really want to hear, and they clickbait you. That's what it is. It's visual clickbait.
Yeah.
And especially, for me, I stopped watching trailers years ago, because for me, that ruins the experience of actually watching a movie and taking it into its fullest extent. So if I saw this and I said, whoa, they're going to do a Leprechaun origin film, and I didn't watch the trailers, I didn't see the set pics, and I went in, I would feel like I wasted $15 worth. You know? It's just really disappointing. And it's just, I think that this, disconnecting it from the first 6 was a great idea. Because that doesn't portray the first 6 in an accurate light. And I think that if you went in there thinking that this is what the other ones were like, you would be grossly mistaken.
Yeah. So Leprechaun 7, Leprechaun's Origins. I think we can both agree that it was not the origin story we were hoping for.
No, there's so much more that they could have done. And what they did, I guess it's very Blumhouse in a way, like I said, where they bring in they put in what they take out. You could tell that there wasn't a lot put in there.
Yeah.
All right.
So the final installment to date, because we never know, there might be another one coming.
There could be. It's not a canceled or discontinued franchise.
But Leprechaun Returns 2018. So after the I'm gonna say abomination that Origins was, Leprechaun ended up in the hands of the one place that would truly take it with open arms and love it and hold it dear, that being the Sci-Fi Network. Sci-Fi Network, we know, has all of the gems there, including a unofficial Leprechaun sequel. Everyone knows of the Sharknado series.
Oh, Sharknado!
Don't know that Sharknado actually has a tie-in to the Leprechaun franchise.
No, it doesn't really.
It does, because the creator, the director, and everything of the Sharknado series actually did a film prior to that called Red Clover. Okay. Red Clover was his attempt at doing a sequel to the original Leprechaun series. He really wanted to do a Leprechaun film, but he didn't have the rights to do it. He had a contract with Sci-Fi, and he did Red Clover. And in Red Clover, he discusses a town that got hit by a Sharknado. And this was years before Sharknado was even a thing.
I see.
So this is something that he'd been talking about years before he ever actually had Sharknado come out. So, I think it's canon now that Lep and Lep versus Sharknado needs to happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Lep versus
No, I'm looking here, and Red Clover's original title back in 2012 was Leprechaun's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really... Yeah, that really ties into what was trying to be told, and I think that's so neat how those two overlap, how these two really well-cherished and just truly lovable, truly well-known for their quality, in that sense being the quality that you kind of look back and you kind of poke fun at, they go hand in hand. I never knew that. That's really interesting.
I'm a wealth of useless knowledge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that useless knowledge is working right now.
But, all right. So Leprechaun Returns of 2018. I remember the first time I actually saw the poster for it.
Yeah.
I cut ties with cable forever ago. I went full on streaming platforms and everything. But the poster for it was a leprechaun coming out of a little well, and it was him returning, him coming back to basics, and I remember I Googled everywhere I could possibly find to try to get all the information I could on it. I wanted to know if Warwick Davis was back. I wanted to know where I was going to be able to see this. It was a Sci-Fi original network. I didn't have cable at the time, which I still don't. I do streaming. But I found that it was up for pre-order on Amazon. So I pre-ordered it that day. And I will tell you, for Sci-Fi's attempt at a back to basics, return to the Leprechaun series, I can definitely tell there was a lot of love attempted in it. There were certain things that kind of fell flat for me. But for not having Warwick Davis back, I will tell you, the actor that they did get to fill in the Leprechaun shoes, Lyndon Porco. Is that his name? Porco?
I believe
I don't know
it
if that's how you pronounce it or not. He did a pretty good job. Honestly, he really tried. I could tell that he was really attempting to bring back that same magic that Warwick Davis brought to the character.
This is a really great redemption too. Kind of apologizing for Leprechaun origins. It definitely brings us back to the first Leprechaun in 1993, where you have the very terrorized, sorority girl, and it's just this really fun, real campy horror movie. And you go back to a very similar design to the first Leprechaun, Warwick Davis's design, where you have the buckled shoes and the Lucky Charms hat, and all of that really just cartoon. It's very cartoony.
He's shining shoes again.
Yes,
which I really enjoy, because he stopped shining shoes there for a while, and I was like, why did he stop shining shoes? But he's shining shoes again. He's doing limericks again. There's certain bits of it that it's a little much for me, like when he does Hammer Time, that whole little bit.
That's a little bit
a bit much for me.
Outdated. I get definitely think it's outdated. It's fun, but
for me. I do enjoy the fact that how we're doing all of these back to basics moments. We go back to the original house.
Yeah.
And instead of it being Tori Redding, it's her daughter.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, your mom apparently was traumatized by this so much that it kind of drove her a little insane. And it's like, you're gonna go back to that house now that you're grown. And let's discuss the.
It's a Camp Crystal Lake move,
It's just,
you go back to this house and
you want that to be your sorority house. I'm gonna tell you right now. I know you're currently in college. I graduated a few years ago, but as someone who knows, when you're in college and you want to look at partying and you want to look at, being on campus, studying, learning everything, you want to be on campus or right on the main stretch, the very least. You don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere where you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have cell phone service, you don't have running water to a degree, and you're just kind of stuck out there. It's like,
and especially with this Leprechaun being based in a more modern era, as it is in 2018 upon production. Where do you go to school that you're like, it'd be super fun if our sorority existed in the middle of nowhere? That was super cute.
What sorority house wants to be in the middle of nowhere?
It's like the opposite of sororities. You want to be on. My school does not have Greek life, which is very disappointing for me, even though, it's not what makes or breaks a college experience, but it is something that I do feel that I missed out on significantly. I'm not someone that would join a sorority personally. However, I don't have that cultural impact. That being said, when I was looking at schools, I'm sure you went through the same thing, that was huge. My sister goes to our state school here at Illinois State. And that's, my boyfriend went to Illinois State, and they two bond over, neither of them were in a fraternity nor a sorority, but they bond over going to very similar parties and knowing about these landmarks that are in their Greek life, because it was such an important part of campus culture, and you think about it, you go, they wouldn't want to be isolated. They wouldn't want to be disconnected.
Like the whole point of joining a sorority or fraternity is supposed to be joining this community, building
Right.
this base for you to be able to tap into for the rest of your life, either through like friendships or through like connections for work or what have you. And it's like, what kind of connections are you going to be building out in the middle of nowhere where no one can reach you? And it's just, there's so many moments in it where it was like, I see where you're going there. Like there's a lot of like green energy jokes throughout that are shoehorned in, but it's like there's so many things. It's like it doesn't fit with being.
It doesn't make sense. Were you involved in Greek life at all?
I rushed and I did bail. I did bail. I'm not gonna lie.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe it's maybe it's better for you.
The whole Hell Week thing was brought to my attention, and yeah, I may have thrown a drink in someone's face.
Good for you. I like that.
Yeah, don't talk to me like that.
No way. The closest I've experienced Greek life is I went to go visit my sister at ISU, and we went to a frat party, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Because I live on a campus where I'm in the downtown area, so there's a lot of bars near me and stuff like that. So I can go out and I can drink. Maybe not right now, but hypothetically, I can go out to bars and stuff instead of going to someone's 800-year-old home and have a friggin' natty light in their mildew-infested basement.
Like you had that opportunity for socializing in an
atmosphere. And that's the difference,
where you're in the middle of nowhere.
Hey,
I just can't get past the fact that you're in the middle of nowhere. What college student is going to want to live in the middle of nowhere?
But college in general be like, hey, by the way, your sorority is going to be in the middle of nowhere.
Your only taxi service is a guy named Ozzy. You text his phone.
Which they really, really, really tried. However,
brought Ozzy back from the original. What?
This is the highest ranking out of all of the Leprechaun movies.
Are you serious?
As for critic approval.
Oh, wow.
So as a critic, that's something I really pay attention to on other films, even though I don't take it personally. I just like to look and see what other people think. And Leprechaun Returns is a solid 5 out of 10. The other ones I've seen are on the 3 and 4 star out of 10 star IMDb ranking.
Oh my god.
Yeah. They do not fall below the 3 star, but they do not move above the 4 star. This is the only one that holds the crown at a solid 5.0 out of 10, which I think is interesting.
And the big thing for me that makes this a good Leprechaun film is the nostalgia for the original film. In this, there's so many callbacks to it, where it's like they actually brought back Ozzy from the original. And he talks about being friends with Tori, and he's like, did she tell you about where you're going, about what she went through there? And I love when we see his dashboard and we see all the four-leaf clovers everywhere, and it's like, oh, are you Irish? No. It's like, oh, you just like the culture? It's like, not at all.
It's a fun little thing, and it's really neat to incorporate that. And it's again with Mark Jones writing all 8 of these movies, which I'm surprised he writes Leprechaun. Or no, was he a part of Leprechaun Origins?
I don't think he was a part of Origins.
I don't think he was. He wrote 7.
I could be wrong.
Double check my sources here. Oh no! The only movie that Mark Jones was not a part of was Leprechaun Origins.
Okay.
So even having this ongoing screenwriter who created the series disconnected from this one independent film, and then coming back to kind of work with sci-fi and re-salvage
redeem it.
what it can. That's really neat.
So once again, like most of the series as a whole, we have a lot of very unlikable characters.
Yes, there's a lot of. It's a fun movie.
Okay, I will tell you, as someone who bailed out on Rush, I met most of these girls. I met most of these girls, including the alcoholic. What is her name? Meredith.
Mm.
Meredith. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
They're not that stereotypical. I fully buy these female.
Oh no, they definitely nailed the stereotype on the head, and they really ran with it too. I don't know how hard it is to write a stereotypical frat girl, because they kind of write themselves, you know? They definitely do write themselves. They definitely do upkeep that for themselves. They're just providing the material. We're just here to watch it, or we're here to watch it go down.
So the moment that kind of had me turning my head in this, where there's always something in each one of the films that kind of has me turn my head to the side, is he's always talked about his gold being the source of his power and everything, but in this one he's saying that killing is a part of his power. And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
That's a first.
He's like, he needs his gold so he can get back to killing. And I'm like, what?
Does he kill for? I see why he kills for gold.
He really seems to just enjoy it with this one. It's less about going after his gold, and it's more about getting revenge in this one.
There's a lot of revenge seeking, and I don't think it's as rooted in gold.
It really isn't that much about gold in this one, which is a little bit of a letdown. But
yeah,
we got some decent kills out of it, at least. I've never actually seen anyone get killed by a solar panel before.
that's
And
first. I kind of like that.
I did enjoy that. I'm not gonna lie. Death by drone, like the little parrot drone.
I do like how they incorporated modern technology into this one. It's very Black Mirror-esque.
Yes.
Where you do have technology turn on you. And I think that even though they do have these callbacks, you got Ozzy, you got the 4-Leaf Clovers, you got, Tori's daughter at the center of this whole thing, going back to the house. But at the same time, it definitely takes advantage of the time period that it is in. And it knows how to cater to that time period, like, solar panel or drone or,
selfies with the leprechaun.
Yeah, you couldn't do that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and have it make sense, or have it be as maybe eye-rollingly clever, because I look at our book, we got killed by a drone, but at the same time, it's kind of funny how they work that into that, and how it's a stark reminder that we are kind of ruled by technology, even though the leprechaun, maybe not after his gold, more after his revenge, but he uses this technology that's taking him down as a device to his own advantage. I think it was fun. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I had
for what it was. I think it was really neat. Definitely the nostalgia bait that hits a little, you go, oh, hey, this kind of comes full circle. This really takes a victory lap, and they do well with it.
I had fun with it personally as a Leprechaun fan, just kind of brought back, since the whole downslope of Back to the Hood and Origins. I wouldn't say this is the worst film by any stretch of the imagination. I would say for me, if we wanted to rank the films from best to worst, personally, I would say probably the third one is my favorite.
The third one is your favorite.
The third
I
one,
can see why.
I like the body horror in it.
Okay.
I feel like the characters are way more likable. It gets super silly at times,
It does, and
but
that's where the
it's
charm
very
comes through.
fun. It's very fun for me. And I would have to say that my least favorite, hands down, is Origins.
I can totally understand. Origins is just a nasty take on the series.
It's just not a Leprechaun film.
No,
It's not.
no, it was not fun to watch. It was not fun to revisit. I kind of forgot about it for the longest time until you were like, "Hey, watch all of these," and I was like, "Okay, well." And I went back and I was like, "Why am I wasting my time?"
I feel like Origins was the one film out of all of these that I was really dreading watching.
Yes.
And I put
Yeah.
off watching the most.
I definitely watched it out of order. But I was like, I don't want to watch Origins in general, but I have to.
I'm sorry.
It's part of it. But yeah. 3 was a lot of fun. I definitely liked In the Hood. I think that was just a cool shift for that, unpredictable series. Space 4, you can't go wrong with space ever. In space, nobody can hear you scream. But yeah, I did not like Origins all that much. And the others, I'm just sort of indifferent to. There are definitely bright moments that are captured within each and every one of them. And there are definitely pitfalls in each and every one of them. Some more than others, but besides the titular first one that everyone kind of knows about because it has such a large reputation for a little villain. It's, I kind of forgot about the second one, kind of forgot about the fifth one. There are these itty bitty little films that kind of forget that piece of the franchise as a whole.
So, next episode.
What are you thinking?
You already picked our topic, remember?
Oh yeah, are we doing Tyre? Or Tyre?
We're doing The Room.
Oh, The Room, yes!
Remember? You already said
we're doing The Room. We're gonna go over The Room with Tommy Wiseau. I'm really excited for that.
Okay, so I've never actually seen The Room. So this will be a first for me.
It is.
You will go in next episode. You're gonna be taking charge.
Awesome. I can't wait.
You're gonna come with all the knowledge.
Okay.
And you're gonna be smacking down the knowledge on me, okay?
All right.
I need to know everything.
This is gonna be a lot of fun.
I only know The Room from memes. I'm not kidding. Like, we all know that. Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, Mark.
I get that a lot because, Mark.
I remember last year I was at Wizard World, Chicago. And I was at my friend's their lobby after party. And I was talking to them, I was hanging out, and they turned around and they graded 2 of their friends. And it took me a little bit. Of course, I'm at a con. Of course, it's a 3-day bender, right? So
Yeah.
I called it quit. Like, I took a break earlier in the afternoon and I just started drinking again that evening. And I turned around and it's one of my now friends who was full Tommy Wiseau. In full Tommy Wiseau cosplay. They had about 30 belts. From a distance, it looked like a corset. But as she walked closer, you can tell that this dedicated artist took the time to put on belt after belt after belt after belt over their waistcoat in the cyan blue button up. She had the black stringy wig. She had the sunglasses.
Wow.
Did not break character all evening. It was such a fun experience. It was, of course, we're all, having a great time and hanging out with her. I'm like, I looked over, I'm like, oh my God, it's Tommy Wiseau, and everyone's screaming and it's a great time. But yeah, all of those memes that you have seen, they're very, that's an accurate depiction.
I think the other one I know really well is I did not hit her. I did not. Or I think the only other one I know about. Yes, Lisa.
Lisa.
Why you do this to me, Lisa?
I don't know where Tommy Wiseau is from. I think he's Polish. But we will figure. Okay, we will get into the room.
I'm excited about this. I've heard stories. I've never seen
In
it before
Chicago,
myself.
there's my favorite movie theater in Chicago, if not anywhere in the world. It's called the Music Box Theater, and it's been around since like maybe the 30s. So it still has the organ that comes up to the stage, and it's still cinder block, not even cinder block, but it's like cement, and it's very very ornate. It's a one-room theater with one screen. And I've been there, there's a little speakeasy attached to it. And I've done work there before. I've gone for screenings and festivals, and it's really, really neat place. But they hold events, right? They hold public events. And one of their events is to hold midnight screenings of The Room. And it is unspoken amongst like B-list, C-list movie fans. I forgot, I'll have to figure out what part it is. But at a certain point of the movie, you pull out a box of plastic spoons, you start throwing them at each other. You throw them at each other, you get up and you run around and you scream and you get into it, and they encourage it.
This sounds like some Rocky Horror Picture Show like level
it's Rocky
stuff.
Horror Picture Show, but for The Room. So like how
I could get into this.
It's on my bucket list to go. But yeah, that's something I really want to experience.
Before all this year and everything,
our
local theater always did, the month of October they would do a Rocky Horror Picture screening. And they do at the concessions, instead of you buying like popcorn and stuff, you buy tomatoes that you can actually throw and prompt to throw at the screen.
That's so cool.
And so you dress up and everyone gets up and dress during the time warp, and it's so crazy. And like clearly they didn't do it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's so sad. I'm sorry.
But I mean it's a whole event.
Yeah.
It's just something that's so much fun to do. And like that sounds like that level.
That's what it's that level where you need to buck up and have it. You need to go with the mindset that this is not your traditional trip to the movies. Like this is where you are going to be encouraged to act at your worst.
But it sounds perfect.
I know. Once we're past all of this stuff, just small things like that.
We need to go.
When
we find out this is happening again and all this nonsense is over, you shoot me a message. We're gonna plan it out. We're gonna go.
Oh, we're going. I want to do.
We're gonna kidnap Carson.
Rocky Horror. I will go.
We're gonna kidnap Carson too, because he lives in my neck of the woods. We're gonna go.
What?
Big group of us.
This is a warning.
We're gonna kidnap Carson. And you said it's in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna kidnap Chuck and Shauna too.
They live right in the area.
I know. We're gonna kidnap them.
Yeah. I think that Chuck and Shauna would love this.
100%. We're gonna kidnap.
You know how Chuck and Shauna are. Chuck goes over the top and Shauna reels him back in.
I love Shauna.
I love Shauna so much.
I do.
She just keeps that man so grounded.
The first time I met them in person, I had been given a beer, which I don't drink. I don't drink beer.
In true Lindsay manner.
Here's
And
my
she
thing.
just show up and they hand you a drink.
I don't drink beer. I don't drink wine. Those are the two things that make me sick. I drink mixed drinks. I drink hard alcohol. All that doesn't affect me at all. I have a very high tolerance to it. The second I drink beer or I drink wine, I'm either going to get completely drunk or I'm going to get very sick. I had one beer at C2E2 that year,
and I
What
was
year was
sick as
this?
a dog. It wasn't this last year; it was the year prior to that.
Okay,
The first year they had like their booth and everything there.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
sick as a dog the whole rest of the con. Like, I remember walking with our group to go and see Art Germ, and I felt
Yes.
fine. I felt fine. I was in Starfire cosplay at that day. I was full, wig,
Yeah.
painted orange, green contacts, everything dressed up. And I felt fine. I had my second wind. I was good. And then I wasn't. And my head was in a trash can. I threw up, jumped back up, wiped my mouth. And I remember my friend Joe, Pokemon Joe, was just like, "You good?" And I was like, "Art Germ." And we just went straight to Art Germ from that moment. Oh, God. Cons.
That's this year at C2. This was like the first C2 that I started working for Chuck last year at Wizard World, and I picked up from there. So this year was the first C2 that I was keeping, all of his talent afloat for, and really, really stepping up to that plate for him, organize everything with Rig Pop and Press and stuff like that. And at the time, there was a guy that I was interested in, and I was like, "Hey, man, if you want to do something fun this weekend, because you're hanging out and we were shooting the shit," and I was like, "Hey, man, like if you want to do something fun, I can sneak you into this thing." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll go with you. That sounds like a great." I said,
Snuck him into a con.
"Yeah, all right, man, so we'll go." And it was Saturday of all days, so you know how it be. You know how it be.
I know.
You know.
I know cons.
You know cons.
I know how Saturday is at cons, especially.
Cons. So I look up to be like, "All right, Chuck, what do I got to do today? By the way, I've got my buddy here with me. Let us know. He's gonna be running around with me. He's gonna be my little protege. What's up?" The first thing that Chuck,
Say it.
he goes, "What do you want to drink?" And this is at 9:00 in the morning, mind you.
Yep.
I'm there before the floor opens because I got my press pass on. I was like, I'm ready to go. I'm up too early. I'm on 3 hours of sleep. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Sleep at cons. You don't sleep.
No, you don't. sleep.
I don't care about alcohol poisoning. I don't care about anything. You don't sleep at cons. You don't sleep at cons.
Never. You
No.
miss so much if you fall asleep at a con. Like that's just how it
Draw
is.
on you.
And he doesn't say, there's more formality, and I'm too busy hyping up this whole thing to this poor guy who is still a really good friend of mine. But he goes, "What do you want to drink?" And I said, "Either a coffee or a beer. You tell me." And Chuck scuttles off. Chuck, if you're watching this, he just scuttles off onto the floor and he disappears. And like a minute later, he's behind me with one of the friggin' over $10 C2 beers, and I'm like,
Yep.
"Here we go."
Yep.
So drink a beer at 9 in the morning.
Dude.
Full like Ray Palpatine cosplay too, mind you. This con so much.
Baltimore was the last like big con experience that I went to before all this nonsense. This last
Yeah.
and everything. But getting up, it was 6:00 in the morning, and Chad is sitting at the table at the Airbnb that we're all staying at because we were all like renting this huge house together, and he was drinking coffee and came downstairs, saw he was drinking coffee. First thing out of my mouth is I'm making fun of him for drinking coffee, and I looked at him. I was like, "What?
You think you're at home, motherfucker? No, we don't do coffee in this piece. We need to do shots.
We're doing that's
And somehow it ended up with both of us doing a ring of fire. I don't know how that happened. I think both of us were just like egging the other one on, which you know what Ring of Fire is, right?
I do know what Ring of Fire is.
Oh yeah. So the full Ring of Fire before we have to go on the con floor to do interviews. And we had interviews lined up. And I was cosplaying that day. So I had to do I had my full Hell Girl makeup on. I had prosthetic horns on.
Yes.
And I had somehow lost a contact lens. So I had one yellow eye and a full wig. And I had the Hammer of Doom, yeah. And I had a fake gun and a cigar that kept falling out of my mouth because I kept drinking all day. Not gonna lie.
At Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
What am I? Yes. Oh, Celebration. So I wasn't even planning on going to Celebration because there's no way that I'm going to pay money to go screw around with some Star Wars nerds in public. There's no way, man. So I was, unfortunately, it was 2 weeks after C2E2 in the McCormick place, just the other side of the hall. And my buddy texted me and he goes, hey, it's Saturday of Star Wars Celebration in Chicago for the first time. Around 4 o'clock, he goes, hey, or 3 o'clock, he goes, there's a 4 o'clock train from the train by your campus that goes into Union Station. If you can get on the train, I will pick you up and I will drive you home. Do you want to go screw around Celebration with me? And I go, man, sure. How are we going to get in? He goes, do you still have your CT badge? And I go, yes. He goes, bring the lanyard that says Recon. Take the tag off. Tuck it down the front of your shirt. If they try to ask for your badge, accuse them of, say that you're underage and that they're trying to look down your shirt.
That's brilliant.
And it worked. It worked. Oh my god. We walked straight in. Nobody batted an eye.
Oh my gosh.
I was so ready. I was like, I had like a push-up run on too. Like I was baiting these guys. And they didn't care. So I was at Celebration. I arrived at 4 p.m. I left at 5 in the morning. As one does. Because I didn't have a room. I remember a lot of it. I remember.
That's a good thing. You remember a lot of it.
I remember cheering on some cosplayer who took a burlap sack and he wrote sand across the front. And he approached that lantern. And he approached eating his I remember being a couple of the corporate beers in.
Okay, so you know how we did C2E2 with Chuck and Shauna the first year where they had like their booth and everything there, right?
That was 18, yeah.
This is a while back. Yeah, I think it was 18. It might have been 19.
I remember because that's when I first met Chuck and Shauna in Ace Chicago 2017 or 18. And then I saw them back at Wizard. Or not Wizard. And then the two C2s that they had their booth. Because I was with them last year. Go on.
I wasn't there last year. It was the year prior.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So we didn't have exhibitor passes because we weren't like technically of the exhibitor team, but we were like helping set up. We were helping like do some of the stuff and everything. And like we were just palling around with them and everything, right? Mm-hmm. We had press passes, but we didn't have the exhibitor pass. So we technically weren't allowed in at a certain time until right? Mm-hmm. and they didn't want to let us in early. And you know, we're calling Chuck and Shauna, and Chuck comes out and he's got passes for everyone, and he gives me one of the passes. He gives Chad one of the passes, and Mark's with us and everything. And by this time, we'd all been drinking already, and a big group of us were all swarming in and everything. Mark and another member of our group, I can't think of who for the life of me, was still left out there. Completely left him out there. And he's like texting and calling and everything, and like no one's answering their phone. Finally, Shauna finds out that Mark's out there. And Shauna goes out there to go get him. And she's like, no, he's with me. He's with me. He's with me. And she like puts her arms all over him and everything. And the guy at the security booth there is just like, no, sweetheart, da, 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 da. And she's like, no, I don't think you understand who we are. She's just like, we are very important people here. And Mark just looks at her and she's like, just go with it. Just go with it. And she just starts like grabbing him by his facial hair.
Oh my God.
And it was so bad because Mark said when he got to me, he realized I'd been drinking beer, and he's like, babe, how many of those have you had? Because he knows I don't handle beer very well at all. And I looked at him, I was like, I don't know, but it tastes really good. And the second I said that, he's like, oh, this isn't going to be a good con for you, is it?
I remember the guy that I was dating at the time. At this C2 this year. Okay. It was also Lent. So I can't eat meat on Fridays.
Okay.
As is Catholic,
Yeah.
So I was hanging out with him and his buddies, and he was like, hey, it was like, I don't know, Friday or something. Yes, it was Friday. And it was after hours, right when the floor show shut down. So I went to go change out of cosplay. He went to go change out of cosplay. And then, like, he waited for me in my room because I changed, and then I went back with him to his room. First of all, there was like 25 people in a room, like in one of those tiny McCormick McCormick Place hotel rooms.
There's 25 people?
There were 25 people. And then they handed me something called Joker juice. I don't remember what it is, but I do remember looking at it and going, this is going to turn me into the Joker. And
Jungle juice.
No, this is like Joker. Like
Joker juice?
No, not Jungle juice. Joker juice. Like Crown Prince and Crown.
Okay, Joker juice. Is it anything like Jungle juice? Or is it just a bunch of alcohol all mixed together?
We really live in a society.
I think we need to get that recipe because we need to make some Joker juice. And
just friends over in his room and be like, hey, I've definitely moved on past your friend, but he had a smacking recipe. What was it?
Yes. Yes. You need to know what that is.
I couldn't have meat. The two things that I remember sitting in the room, this was after our friend was telling us about his divorce, and I was too busy looking at the glass plates for his Doctor Strange cosplay. The ones with the LED ones. I was too busy looking at them and listening to him tell me about his divorce. What the fuck is happening? I remember looking at him and going, I need to eat something. And he got me like a sandwich, and I opened it. I'm like, you dumb fuck, this has meat in it. And he got me the Uncrustables. I woke up with like 6 Uncrustables in my backpack the next day. I was like, where did these come from?
Uncrustables are awesome though.
I also remember him, I'm like, I'm 21 years old. I'm not the young buck I used to be. And then drinking more juice. God, I miss cons so much.
Yeah.
I miss them so much.
Dude, you can meet so many awesome people at conventions, just walking the floor and just talking to random people. One of the funnest people I've met, and just one of the better connections I've made at cons.
was at a horror convention at Days of the Dead several years ago. Days of the Dead, Indianapolis. This was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. I met the author Sam Mizzardino, and he is the creator of the Addicted Animals series. And he and I, we've had this like relationship, like this friendship where we talk back and forth. And he sent me a lot of his advanced copies, and he's allowed me to do readings of a lot of his books before they've come out and everything.
Super cool.
And he actually contacted me like 2 months before his most recent one had just come out, that if you give a kitty a cocktail, and was like, hey, you know, are you still interested in continuing this? I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I've got signed copies of each one of his books, and it's just been such a great relationship to keep going with. And it's just like, dude, the fact that High Times has my reading on their website was really awesome.
That
And
is
just
really,
so
really
much fun. I'm going
There's
to tell you right
so
now,
many-
potheads love it when you read to them.
Yeah, they sure do.
They do.
It's like playing music for animals. It's very soothing.
But it's or Gordon Smuter. Gordon Smuter, the creator of Transylvania Television and Puppet Forge.
Yeah.
Legend and I got to do an interview with him at Baltimore. So originally I went up to Gordon Smuter's booth for Puppet Forge and everything. And I got super excited because it was puppets. I like puppets, and I may have made them a little uncomfortable because I may have been a little too excited about it. But I'd given him my card, and I was really excited about it, and I went to talk to him about everything. And like they were kind of a little standoffish and everything. They're like, oh yeah, the chick wants to talk about puppets. I even bought one of their puppets. I named him Lawrence. He's a little hand crawler puppet. I still have him. He's one of the he's a co-star of Be Kiara Behind the Bar with Mark. It's really fun time. But being able then going back to the booth and seeing the Puppet Forge card there, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do an interview with them tomorrow. And I was like, we're gonna do an interview with them tomorrow? I was like, can I do it? Can I do it? And they're like, oh, we were gonna have you do it. And when we sat down and I reintroduced myself to him, like the look on his face was a little bit of fear. But he's a lot of fun. It was awesome. And being able to interview a Yeti puppet was a lot of fun. And like you don't have moments like that just walking down the street, and it's like, dude, you can have so many crazy fun moments at these conventions.
Do you remember Constantine that was on the CW?
Yes.
So do you remember Matt Ryan is the frontman for the show?
Okay.
And Matt Ryan likes to frequent Chicago for their Wizard World shows.
Okay.
And last spring, right when Stranger Things was a big thing, they had third season, they were hot off the press. It was a really great, awesome series, really, really, really great season, their best yet. So I had a big group of my friends, and we did I was L in our little group. And it was that Friday, because we did a huge photo shoot and stuff, and it was a lot of fun, really, really cool. And I was running around as L that day. And I had the blood dripping out of my left side of my nose. But it was, a little lipstick streak. You pat it out, you dab it out, it looked like blood. And I forgot that I had that on my face, because I just put it on there. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go, And it was that evening, and we were all making ourselves very comfortable in the lobby. And I was hanging out with a couple of friends, and I turned around and I said, that's Matt Ryan. That's Constantine. That's Matt Ryan. Oh my God, we're freaking Kato Kaelin from the Trials. So I was like, oh, I got a crush on this guy forever. I'm going to talk to him. I went up to Matt Ryan, and I was chatting up Matt Ryan. I was like, hey man, the red bar's right over that way. We should get a drink. And he looks at me, and he goes, have you been doing cocaine? Do you do cocaine? I was like, no, this isn't real. I'm fine. He's like, you should do cocaine. And then he and the little O.J. Simpson man walked off.
No. You should have looked at him and said, "Yeah, do you want to take a hit?"
I was so close to doing cocaine with Constantine.
Like, yeah, like you got some.
I should not have blinked. But I was so confident too. I was really feeling myself that evening, and I forgot that I looked like Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh my god.
Oh. But cool places. Fun place.
Probably going to dinner at a 5-star restaurant the night after cosplay and being told by Chad that he would not take me into the restaurant if I was still red and I had to go upstairs and shower. So I'd been wearing it since like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning the previous, and it was like closer to like 11 or midnight at that time. So scrubbing, and it was not coming off. I came down, and I'm not kidding. I looked more like the demon. I think it's the demon from Insidious.
Ah, yeah.
And our other friend Mike just looked at me, and he's like, "No one say anything. She looks perfect." And we got there to the restaurant. I had not looked in a mirror at that time, mind you, because the mirrors were all like steamy by that time because I'd just been scrubbing.
Yeah.
And you know, our Uber kept like looking over, and I didn't really, whatever, you know, just kind of ignoring it. Walked into the restaurant, went to sit down, and the waiter goes to take our order, looks at me, does a double take, and just kind of backs up for a second. And Mike, who's sitting next to me, looks over and says, "Hey, my friend has a serious skin condition, and she's very sensitive about it. So please don't say anything about it. You'll just make her more uncomfortable." And I was like, do I look that bad? And I finally saw my reflection of what I looked like. I was like, oh God, I made it all the way here and no one said a damn thing. It's like, no, you just don't stop drinking at cons. That's the thing. You just don't stop drinking. And I got very sober very quick when I saw what I looked like. And like,
I remember a couple years ago, oh man, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when I first did my Gwen Stacy cosplay, and I had the blonde wig on, and I had the gray contacts in, and I didn't tell anyone I was doing this, and this is when I was still like not going to cons for the entire weekend, where I go like 2 days in a row, and I'd be like, okay, this is cool, you know, like a baby, and I got up super early. I did my makeup. I got it ready, and I'm screwing around downstairs. I'm getting some coffee. I'm waking myself up. I'm excited to go, and my dad comes down the stairs, and he sees me in the blonde wig from behind, and I turn around and I go, "Hey, good morning," and he goes, "Who the hell are you?" I scared. I didn't recognize because I changed my eye color and I put on the wig. He's like, "I don't know who you are. Get out of my house." I'm like, hey, it's me. Your firstborn daughter.
Just look, I'm like, hey, I'm your favorite child.
That's where my sister was. That was a very awakening moment for them when they realized what a fucking weirdo I am. You know, it's so funny because I started, you know, at first they were like, ugh. And then this Halloween, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna wear. And they're like, are you kidding me? They're like, we have all this really cool stuff and you're not gonna wear any of it. I was like, I don't know, you know.
Dude, biggest letdown of Halloween, I had to work. I had to close. And I was like, that sucks. And then like, since we managed there, I had to do inventory.
What type of restaurant do you manage?
So we, my husband's technically the GM of Penn, and like it was just like so many little tedious things I had to count, and we had nothing but like teenagers all day, so it's like none of them were necessarily helpful. So then we had to wait until the very end of it to make sure that every inventory thing was counted, everything was done properly. We had to do all the like spreadsheets for the coupons and the discounts and all this other bullshit. I was like, oh, this really sucks.
That really sucks. I was supposed to work on Halloween, and then I was like, guys, if anyone could cover for me. Originally, I was supposed to go on a camping trip with some friends for a 3-day camping trip, and then that did not happen for obvious reasons. And then I already put my request off form, and it was not like accepted. I was like, well, my roommate's holding up a thing, and I want to go to it. So I was like, if anyone can cover me. And someone did end up covering me, and I was like, I remember being like the worst mood because I was working on Halloween for like a week, and everyone around me was like, you may snap. And I was like, I might. I just might go off the edge. I just may lose it. And then they're like, yeah, I'll cover it. I'm like, what do you want in return? Like, do you want me to name my first child after you?
You're like, because I might.
I might.
They're like, definitely a middle name.
Yeah, that's a middle name. I will. You want to be written in my will? Yeah. And that was when that was like the first month that I was hanging out with my now boyfriend. And I went to, instead of going to my roommate's thing, I went with him to his friend's housewarming party. And he was like, oh, just, so nobody's wearing anything. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll just look nice, I guess. He showed up as Kramer from Seinfeld.
First off, he showed up in a costume. I would have smacked him right there.
Last minute, he on the Uber, he was already drunk. And in the Uber, he was like, by the way, I'm wearing a costume. And I was like, oh, okay. It's like he slid, like Kramer slid into every doorway he entered that evening. And he made, I don't know, there is some moments where I'm like, man, you sure are pretty. And that was one of those. I hope he doesn't see this. Jeff, you're super cool.
Fine, it's so far into the stream. There's no way he's gonna watch this far.
He knows that I do this. He's never asked to watch it. I'm kind of happy about it.
So
I want him to be like, oh.
he'll never watch this far, trust me. He'll click around a little bit for a few digestible little parts that he can reference later on and like act like you watched the whole thing. There's no way.
I'm glad that he has not been like, let me watch it. And I was like, I just go off, my guy. There's no comprehension. Like, I make a fool.
So the best Halloween story I can think of with Mark was a friend of mine was having a party. Mm-hmm. And Mark was going to one of his boys' parties. And I was like, we're in a couple, da-da-da-da. And I really wanted to go to this one. He really wanted to go to another one. So I just decided, fine, da-da-da, I'll just drop you off and then just pick you up later. That way you can drink, da-da-da-da. And I dropped him off. He was wearing a penguin costume. He was wearing a penguin costume, including with like covers for over his shoes to where they were like feet and everything. And like, adorable penguin costume, right?
Yeah.
I come to
I went back penguins from Toy Story.
A little bit. Okay. A little bit. But drop him off. He's a penguin. Right, mind you, drop him off. It's like 9:00. He's a penguin. Came back to get him. I think he was like 2 or 3, right? Mm-hmm. Came back to get him. And he now is wearing a pirate costume over his penguin costume, mind you. He didn't change costumes. He's now wearing a second costume over his costume. And he has now somehow inherited a bird.
There was a literal living parrot on his shoulder that was talking to him. And
I wanted to bark so badly. Oh.
he was so drunk. And I looked at him, I was like, babe, the fuck are you wearing? And he's just like, arr. He's just like, Polly and I, we're best as bros. And he was talking to this bird like it was the greatest thing ever. And he kept asking me if I had any crackers and this and that. And I was like, babe, you can't keep the bird. And he's like, why? And I was like, because it's someone's pet. You can't keep someone's bird. And he got very upset with me. And I finally had to take the bird away from him. And I walked back into the party and I was like, hey, is someone naked and missing a bird? But ultimately, he ended up being a penguin pirate. And I still to this day have no idea where that bird came from.
That's so cool. I love that.
It did not come to stay with us, though. It went back in the party. So
It's not on its own. Paying rent for its own bird.
probably. I saw a very nice Elle Wood girl that was dressed like Elle Woods. She was in pink and everything. She got really excited because there was a pretty bird, and I was like, here's a bird. And I walked out.
Did the bird go to Harvard with her?
Probably. Like, no, she was dressed in all pink and she had like a stuffed dog inside a purse and everything. Like she was all out going Elle Woods.
Yeah.
And like, you know, she was really enjoying it and everything. I was like,
It's so fun.
do you know whose bird this is? And she promised me she'd look for its owner. And I believed her. So, you know, she could still live with that bird. I don't know. It wasn't legally Polly. Legally Polly. I mean, it was a well-behaved bird. Said I was a pretty girl, and I was like, okay, I like you, but you're still not living with me. We have cats.
We have we put down our dog a little over a year ago, and my dad has been very adamant about not getting another one, and I feel bad because it's just him and my mom. My sister and I go back to school. Even though I'm about half an hour away from campus, I am as far away or as close to home as I'd like to be, and I choose to live on campus for that reason. My sister is a couple hours away, so that's a little bit of a different story. Instead, they have claimed the small herd of deer that live in our backyard.
There you go.
They give them names. They send me pictures.
It's one of
They won't get a dog, but they will talk about the deer in the backyard as if they're their own.
There you go.
My mom will go out there. She'll talk to them. I'm like, all right, Paula, do your thing.
As long as they don't talk back, you're fine.
Not yet.
If they start talking back, it might be time to think about having them admitted.
I'll have to consider. The moment they say that the deer said something today, I'm going to think about that. Hey, what did the deer say today? But that's, like, Dad, let's just get a dog. Let's just get a foster puppy. Not even a puppy, like a middle-aged doggy,
Right?
Please, please, I'm 8 years old again. Please, Dad, I'll let him outside. But, yeah, I know. And then they name the wildlife around them. We got a cardinal that hangs out. And my dad, he loves birds. Like, it's a new thing for him. But he's hit that, white dad, suburbia, middle-aged thing where he's like, you guys want to hear about the birds in North America? I bought him for Christmas. I bought him a trivia book on facts of birds. Fun facts and odd tidbits about the birds. And I was like, he's going to
There you go.
But that's what he does. He'll be like, I don't believe in the pandemic. Do you want to hear about a bird? I'm like, yeah. Go ahead and tell me.
Are your deer still alive?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sleep for an hour.
Go back to sleep.
We've been going for 8 hours now.
All right.
It's past
whatever.
1. You
I'm
should.
not talking about Leprechaun, whatever. I'll just enjoy your side of the bed.
No, you won't.
Yo, I totally am.
Leave my pillows alone.
I'm not doing anything with your pillows. I'm just laying on them.
Oh my gosh.
What time do we want to shoot for next weekend?
All right. Next weekend I am free Sunday whenever.
I work
Are you good with that?
until 8 Central.
Okay.
So if you want to go for 9:05 again,
Oh heck yeah.
yeah.
The Room.
The Room. Tell me
Next
when to the Room. Oh man.
Next week, The Room. Everyone, be prepared.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. I'm really excited to see what you think of it.
I've never seen it before. I'm so excited.
All right. I will talk to you all soon.
All right.
All right. Good night, guys.
Night.
Sticking it out.